Hiya Benchmates. Whether you're building, driving, or just thinking about your next project, welcome back to Beyond the Box Art for another modelling adventure. Your benchmates at the mic for this episode are Paul Pendleton-Brown, with his co-hosts Mike Baldwin, Dan Brazil, Shane Cowie, Mark Housley, James Nevitt, and Paul Wong. In this episode, we welcome Will Packard from DB Model Kits, better known as DBMK, exploring the challenges of designing kits for today's modelers.
Hiya Benchmates, and welcome back to Beyond the Box Art, your fortnightly deep dive into the hobby we all love. This is the show where we go far beyond the plastic in the box, exploring the stories, the people, the techniques, and the passion that brings our models to life. Whether you're at the bench with glue on your fingers, driving to work, or just hiding from the stash that's quietly multiplying behind you, you're in exactly the right place. Coming up, we've got another packed show for you, with great conversations from across the modelling world, with a spotlight on two upcoming model shows, namely the Blue Light Model Expo in the UK, and, a little further afield, the Philippines Scale Model Show 26 with IPMS Philippines. Plus, we're joined by Will Packard from DBMK, who talks about the upcoming 132nd Sea Fury, which is being released in the UK on the 16th of April. We've had to slip that into the intro as the date came to light after the interview. Plus, Will talks about many other projects that are on the go. So, add in the latest releases quietly plotting against your wallet in the Stash Inflation Report, plenty of benchtop banter from the crew, and of course your messages and comments. So whichever of the 78 countries worldwide now regularly tuning into the show you're in, grab a brew, clear a space on the bench, and let's get into it. This is episode 23 of Beyond the Box Art, and it starts now. So for this episode we are joined by Boulders. Hello all. Dan.
Hello Benchmates.
Mark.
Hello y'all.
Wongy.
Hey guys.
Nevs.
Hello there.
And as it's that time of the month again, John from Guideline Publications.
Hey up, fast.
Hey up.
That's what we say in Stoke.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
I thought he was taking a mickey then.
I was just looking for the flat cap and the whippet.
I thought he went old Yorkshire.
A flat cap and an oatcake.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, don't start that. Going on to balm cakes. Oh, yes. We can have that conversation again. Let's start with what we've got on the bench then. So let's start this time with Nevs.
So I'm still working on the SMS NES house. So the deck's done now in alternating colours. And Mark, you know that wash you gave me just before Christmas? The bottle one from the guy around Manchester. But it's absolutely fantastic. It just seeps in all of the wood panels. So I've been doing that. So carrying on with Nassau, I'm going to do a bit of a boulders and not just have one kit on the bench, but three. I was just telling the chaps that I'm trying to build Scharnhorst ready for our next Cub challenge. And I've managed to evaporate it or something before the recording. So just to preserve my self-dignity, it's basically been hit by a laser death ray. So a new kit is on the way, but I'm also building a 700 scale. It's a Bismarck class. So basically I had a spare Bismarck hull left in the stash. So I was thinking, well, what do I do with it? Well, if you play a certain online naval game, there's a third Bismarck class ship in it, which isn't armed with 15-inch guns. It's armed with 12-inch guns. So I thought, well, that'll be an interesting build for Bolton as well. So I've just started building that.
Okay, James, so apart from actually deciding to melt and create yourself a new diorama for something out of this world, what have you been buying other than a replacement ship?
So obviously, I've had to buy a replacement Scharnhorst, yeah. I mean, on the plus side, it's cost me less than like a parking ticket. So think of it that way. In the post yesterday, I also got the for Jimmy 72nd scale HE Val. So that'll be an interesting build. So yeah, just those two at the moment.
So analogy of a parking ticket, does that mean you've just got yourself one of those as well?
Nope, I have not. I've been good recently, but because I've got prior experience of dealing with driving related things, I know that this kit costs less than that.
Right, there's obviously another story there that you're not telling us.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No, I mean, obviously I was at Nantwich at the weekend. I picked up a couple bits of Tamiya masking tape and putty, but that was it.
Okay, and how did the sales go at the weekend?
The sales, in theory, better than Bolton.
Oh.
However, I had double the space compared to Bolton.
Right.
And, of course, my overheads were more than Bolton. And Mark pre-ordered a kit off from me there. So technically, Bolton I'd still do better at.
Fair enough. Okay, and obviously for those that don't know what we're talking about Pond Stones International Modelling Company. Link in the show notes.
Pond Stones Limited. Pond Stones Limited.
Okay, with that then, let's move on to Dan.
Yes, well, what's on my bench? Basically, the FX 72nd B24D Blow SD Liberator, which has been, I think last time since we spoke, has been painted, decals are on, it's been weathered, and I just need to make a presentation base for it now. I'm probably going to save it for our first club competition of the year. It's this weight thing that's the only thing that annoys me about the kit is the Airfix guide weight on how much to put in there. Doesn't matter what you put in there, it's still not enough. And you're then compromising that tiny piece of plastic that holds the nose wheel on. So I've decided to fit the tiny little magnets again in the front wheel, and I'll put one in the base. I don't think I need to put them in the rear landing gear wheels, just the nose wheel, just to keep it down. But yeah, other than that, I've bought another one.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, actually, I bought an H. I bought another H.
Is this for your Coastal Command?
Well, I don't know whether to do Coastal Command or one of the ones that was at Alton. I can't remember the name of it. What was the base we were talking about the other day in Norfolk, where they were based? These ones here.
Alton, wasn't it? AULTON. Damn.
OULTON.
Yeah, not Halton, it's Alton.
Alton, yeah. I should know. I live in the blooming county. Well, I'm only an expat, but yeah. So that's what's been on the bench. The old Liberator. I'm just Liberators everything at the moment. And purchase wise are the two Wing Leader Photo Archive number 39 and number 30 books. Now I'm new to these. I'm late. Well, I should say I'm late to the party on the Wing Leader books. Oh my God, they are an absolute revelation. The photos in here are incredible. There is so much reference on quite an esoteric version, two esoteric versions of the Liberators. I cannot recommend them enough to listeners. Please buy them because they're just brilliant. There's so many incredible right up close photographs. I mean, you've got weathering and oil coming out of the engine and all sorts of stuff. They're just brilliant, and photos that I've not seen online anywhere, to be honest with you.
They really do seem to dig them up from absolutely nowhere, but you'll be able to tell one of the authors yourself because Mark Postlethwaite from Winglead will be on the next episode.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, well, these were both from Pavel Turk.
Okay.
So one of them is GR variants in RAF Coastal Command and Royal Canadian Air Force Service. That's Wing Leader Photo Archive number 30. And then you've got part 2, which is Royal Air Force and Royal Canadian Air Force bomber and transport variants. And that's archive number 39. So cannot recommend them enough. And Inspirations kit. And stuff-wise, I've got some of the, very kindly been given some of the Ultimate Acrylic Gold air and brush thinner from Lee at Ultimate Modelling Products, and gave it a whiz over the weekend, and it works great. It's like misting thinner for acrylic paints. It's fantastic. And I even tried it using it to brush some paint on as well. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Can't recommend it enough. Comes in 270 milliliter bottle. It's got one of these interesting flip up spout caps, so you can just pour straight into your airbrush cup. You don't actually have to take the lid off. Really good stuff. Can't recommend it enough. And that's about it for me.
Cool. Okay, so you haven't been overly spending this episode then?
No. Oh, also went to the Shuttleworth Old Warden, whatever you want to call it, model show. That was really good, and there was a beautiful Spitfire in there for us to all sit and look at while the show was going on. That was fantastic.
And was it warmer than Bolton?
Yes, it was marginally warmer this year, but it rained torrential all the way there and all the way back, which was horrible with the spray on the motorway with the trucks and stuff. But first world problems, you know.
Not pleasant. Okay, in that case, moving on. Mark, what have you got on the bench?
That's it. Pretty much the same as what was on last week. I'm still working on the little boat, so there's not been much in the way of advancement there. I've not started anything else, much like a few of the other ones on here. That's pretty much it, really. Purchase-wise, went to the show yesterday with Mike, bought a couple of books, purchased a nice new ship model from Nevs. And I got a few bits and bobs off eBay, things like the this white ensign set for the HMS Ajax, the Airfix 1600 kit. And that's pretty much. Oh, the other thing I did get, I got myself some of these. I don't know if anybody's got any. They're like a dropper with what would you call that? Like a long arm on it, so you can just give it a squeeze and you're straight into your airbrush. Really good, really handy. Dead cheap off Amazon as well. That's got isopropyl alcohol in it. I have a few others, one with water and one with thinners, but really, really good. I just wish I knew what you'd call them.
I know what you mean. It's a bottle with basically a bendy straw thumb attachment on the end of it, but that's the sort of thing that's ideal for getting on Temu, which would be absolutely dirt cheap.
Absolutely, yeah. And you might get more. I mean, I think this came as a pack of 4, I think, and it was about £6. And what's good about it doesn't evaporate because the tube goes right to the bottom of the bottle. Nothing happens until you give it a squeeze, and there you go.
Okay.
Really good. Apart from that, nothing for me.
Okie dokie. In that case, moving on. Boulders.
Not much browner, as you can probably tell. Obviously, the listeners won't be able to see. I'm in a different position. I've had to amend the man cave, so that behind me is the other arch from now on. Mine's just here. So that's took me a bit of time to move stuff about and that. So the Megami's still on the bench, still on the stand. So yeah, nothing else has moved on, unfortunately.
Okay, and purchases?
Here we go. So I bought some books. I bought one on the Yamato, one on British aircraft carriers, one on the Bismarck, and the last one was King George V battleship class. And then I had a damaged book that was not recoverable a few years ago, and I was always trying to find the book, and I managed to find one thanks to Oxfam, and it's Royal Air Force Burton Wood 50 Years in Photographs by Aldon P. Ferguson. Absolute superb book because RAF Burton Wood is literally like 5 minutes away from my house, and there's a lot of B-24s in there because that's where they came into for the Americans. Some fascinating pictures that are really good for references. And obviously, if you want to do a diorama, it's absolutely superb. I purchased another stand from 3D Gizmo. It seems that my photo that I posted in the group chat has caused a bit of a stir because it's gone round quite a few people, especially Brooks's models. I got the interactive pen holder that holds 10 new glue holder, so it's on an angle. And I purchased a 1 to 400th Queen Mary 2 and a 200 scale Nelson class battleship.
Okay, so it's been a bit of a light fortnight for you then.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's it now for a while. I've got enough projects to be getting on with now. And I don't know if I actually mentioned on the last episode that I got a Border Models 1 to 350th Yamato.
I can't remember. You've bought so much of the last couple of months.
Yeah, that, to be honest, that was a steal. I bought that off a online auction site that retails for £225 and got it for £82.
That's not bad.
And it comes with 3 boxes of 3D printed parts, metal barrels, and it also came with, which isn't included in the kit, it came with a wooden deck. So everything's in there to 4 etch galore as well. There's about 9 frets of 4 etch for railings and everything else. So yeah, so I've got plenty to be getting on with.
In that case, moving on then. Wongy, what have you got on your bench?
Well, Brownie, what can I say? But caffeine. No. Okay. So what I've been doing is I've been doing a bit of diorama building, and I've started out, I'm just showing the camera here to everybody, and it's a very small piece of MDF. It's not the club challenge, may I add, but I'm turning this with the use of
Caffeine, coffee sticks. So I've drunk a lot of coffee and I'm building I think it's sometime in sort of 1943, it's almost like a German wooden apron where my Wolf 190 will sit on this little base. And I've got all the figures. I've painted the figures, so that's all sorted. And they were from, I think it was either Priza, those figures. So I've got a couple of those. They're all painted up. So I'm going to finish off this diorama, get it out of the way. So I've got that one on the go. And I'm also still building the Airfix DO217E and the ME328 Mistel. So I've got those two on the go. But apart from that, no, it's been fairly quiet.
Good. And what have you been spending your cash on?
Right. Actually, so I'll tell a lie. Apart from coffee, I bought 1,000 coffee stirrer sticks, which were great. Okay, so I got that, and that was a bargain price of £6 for 1,000. I went off and got some SMS paint, actually, for a future paint job, which is, it's like, what's the best way to describe it? I think it's like a metallic-y purple pearlescent.
Okay. One of the flips or just a pearlescent?
I don't know. I think it's pearlescent, but it's got metallic-y flakes in it. That's the thing. You can tell I'm very true to my...
Very technical.
Yeah, very technical description there. But I'm going to give it a go because, you know, as we all know, SMS make some really nice paints. And I thought I'll give this one a try. Not on my German Luftwaffe aircraft, may I add. Although that could be quite a good build if I did. No, maybe not. So I'll give it a go on the Tamiya car, which I destroyed paint-wise, because that ended badly and never ended up in Bolton. So that's that one. What else have I got? I think that's it. Oh, yes, I've just remembered. It's the Bren Gun 1/72 scale German chocks.
Right.
Yeah, it's photo etch. It's brilliant. They're really small, but I think it'll add to the base which I'm building. So that should make it look nice, even though the aircraft looks horrible. But never mind, that's modelling for you, isn't it?
This is very true. So then, John, what have you got on your bench at the moment?
Well, Brownie, the Airfix 148 scale Spitfire 9 in South African markings is still slowly progressing. Had some medium sea grey applied to the undersides and various other bits with a bit of post shading. That's now sitting around because kind of what overtook it in the 148 scale single engine fighter race was the Dora P-47B Thunderbolt, which grabbed my attention. So that's now gone from being played around with to being primed and ready for paint. I've just finished firing up the engine and painting that. And in a fit of complete madness, I decided to separate the Razorback canopy from the little bit of rear fuselage that it comes moulded in with, which was fun, but is doable for anybody else with time on their hands. So those are my ones, but what's now actually taken precedence over them is my next SAM build, which is the Special Hobby SNCAC NC 701 Martinet, which was the French post-war version of the Siebel 204, that kind of twin-engine utility aircraft with a fully glazed nose. So that's, and with Renault engines and three-bladed propellers. So that's now on the bench. And I've just been making a few amendments to the engine nacelles, which aren't quite right. So yeah, that's hopefully going to be finished in the next month, he said, putting the word month in very big inverted commas. But yeah, it's just a toss-up between whether it's finished in Airval or Armée de l'Air markings. I'm not quite sure which yet.
Oh, Air Naval, without question.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd found a really, really nice scheme, which I thought was kind of a sea blue overall with aluminium engine nacelles and then obviously white codes and, you know, it's fantastic roundels with the anchors on them. But a little bit of research, which I will tell you about in what I've just bought, seems to suggest it's actually rather bizarrely from a maritime aircraft. It's that kind of French khaki green, with aluminium nacelles, which is slightly less nautical to my way of thinking. So I may go for an Armée de l'Air one where some of them had white roofs with little blue cheat lines, the white presumably to just reflect the heat more from colonial service, which looked quite nice. Not quite sure yet. Unfortunately, the kit has got both the Air Naval markings in them, so it's just a question of maybe swapping some codes out if I want to do something different. But yeah, it's a nice model, actually. It's a nice model. Seems to fit okay. So yeah, it's good.
Makes a nice change. And what have you been spending your cash on then?
Well, okay, so part of the spend this month has been a very thick tome by Editions Le La Presse, which is a French publisher, who have published, I think, the only single reference work on the Martinet, which set me back about 70 odd quid. But it literally has anything and everything about this aircraft in it, and including cockpit details, a history of every single one that was built. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle. They do really, really in-depth books on French aircraft. You have to be able to read French to appreciate them, but they are worth it if French aircraft are one of your interests, which they are for me. So that was one of my spends. And then finally, thanks to a little bit of good fortune with a bit of house sale money, I decided it was time to enter the world of cutting my own masks. So I've just spent some of my money on a Silhouette Portrait 4 cutter and the software, plus various sheets of Oro mask and Tamiya mask. The South African Spitfire's got some very odd shaped codes, and there was just no way I could do them any other way. I figure as I keep building aircraft with that, I trawl through my decal bank looking for things for. I just think, why don't I just cut these things and airbrush them? You know, John Bryan and Jamie Hago and a whole raft of other people are just saying it's a complete game change. You know, once you start doing it, you'll never look back. And so, you know, I'm kind of used to doing vector-based graphics with my graphic design and publishing stuff, so it's not particularly difficult to kind of draw the stuff. It's just that I've never really got around to buying something to cut them with. So I'm quite excited about that.
Once you get started, oh yes.
No, and in a completely non-modelling related, but it's really cool, and I'm going to mention this because it was my birthday, and my partner bought me what I can only describe as a set of head-up display swimming goggles. Possibly the most exciting swimming accessory known to mankind. Yeah, great. You get a little in-eye HUD display, shows your heart rate and how fast you're swimming and everything. Honestly, it's the nearest I'm ever going to be to a fighter pilot or an astronaut. It's absolutely brilliant.
I thought for a minute you was going to say that you could actually get a PDF of scale aircraft modelling up on there while you're swimming.
Well, yeah, I suppose, you know, whatever. I tell you what, honestly, swimming underwater with them is brilliant. You feel like a spaceman. I really enjoy it.
Oh dear.
But totally unrelated, but there you go.
That is a glass of white wine you're drinking there, isn't it?
Yes. Or it might be Mr. Leveling Thinners. I'm not quite sure.
I was going to say. Right, in that case, we'll take a short break to listen to some of our wonderful sponsors, and we'll come back with guidelines update for what's in the magazines.
Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with a scale modeler in mind. We've worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be very easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints on the market. Head over to our website scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
And now, the Guideline Publications monthly update with John Tabiner, with what's in April's magazines, including SAM, MMI, and much, much more.
So it's that time of the month again. We're joined by John Taberner from Guideline Publications to tell us all about what's coming up in the April editions of the magazines. John, over to you. Starting off with scale aircraft modelling.
Yeah, Brownie, let's start off with scale aircraft modelling. The April edition will be hitting the newsstands on the 19th of March or the 18th if you are a subscriber, because you always get it a day early. This month in SAM, we have, as ever, a potpourri of subjects in various scales. The cover feature is the Hobby Boss 172nd scale kit of the venerable F-14 Tomcat, but this is finished in Iranian Air Force markings in the desert camouflage, which I think always looks nice on the Tomcat. In 148 scale, Edwards FM2 Wildcat with wing fold and Fleet Air on markings, features in an article by Andy Cooper. And also in 148 scale, Hugh Morgan presents one of those strange little Italian aircraft from the interwar period, the rather barrel-light Caproni Stipa by Master X. In 172nd scale, we carry on with the Italian theme with Harvey Lowe's Imam RO63, which was like the Italian version of the Fiesler Storch, but actually had better performance, except the Italians didn't have enough engines, so they only built 6 of them. And that's Italy's war all over for you. It's an out-of-production resin by SEM model. Finally, in the aircraft section, or not quite finally in the aircraft section, actually, I think the thing that will really interest a lot of modelers is Bill Clark is building a test shot of DBMK's much anticipated 132nd scale de Havilland Hornet. And from the article and Bill's work, it looks like it's going to be a fantastic kit. I should point out that it is a test shot, so some of the things he mentions in the article have already been looked at and altered or amended by DBMK. Also featuring in this issue, possibly one of the most attractive US Navy post-war aircraft, the RA-5C Vigilante, has an absolutely magnificent bit of paint finishing by Mario Sorel. That's the 172nd scale trumpeter kit. Continuing in 172nd scale, the Academy E163 Comet has a bare wood and metal finish applied to it by a Spanish master modeler Manu Gil, which really does go to show that you don't have to spend a fortune on a model to create a really stunning result. And you can find out how to do that in SAM, of course. A bit of a blast from the past. A lot of people will be very familiar and very fond of Neil Robinson, who occasionally crops up. He did a few things on RAF Mohawks and P-36 in the last few issues. Neil has been very busy for this issue, and he has updated no fewer than 5 trumpeter 148 scale Westland Whirlwinds to give the modeler an idea of what needs to be done to bring it up to scratch.
Are you talking fighter or helicopter?
We're talking 4-cannon fighter.
Right. Just checking.
Yeah, no, quite right. Reference features this month. Steve Zanucci has the piece on F-105 Wild Weasels. And the aircraft in profile is Supermarines Seagull Mark V, which most people will know as the Walrus 1 and 2. I just finished writing that this morning, and it's actually quite an interesting aircraft that did a lot of unsung work. Did you know, for instance, that the Irish Air Corps had some of them, and one was hijacked by 3 disaffected Irish pilots who wanted to defect to Germany in 1942. They got as far as Cornwall before 3 RAF Hurricanes forced them down as St. Evil. And that was the end of that. But yeah, that joins a very small list of Allied aircraft that tried to defect to the other side, I guess.
And did you know that the undercarriage legs were all stainless steel?
Do you know what? I didn't know that. And had I known that, I would have put it in the article. But I do know that it was the first British production aircraft to enter service with retractable undercarriage and an enclosed canopy for the crew, which is weird when you look at it, because it looks like a real throwback to the 1920s, but it was actually a very modern aircraft for its time. So yeah, it makes for a very interesting read, and we've got Sam Pearson doing profiles for those as ever. At the time of broadcast, the colour conundrum hasn't reached us yet from Paul. So none of us are sure what he's going to be writing about, which is always fun. But the reference photos that he sent through to Sam the artist were all of Spitfires and Hurricanes.
That'll do.
Your guess is as good as mine. It's kind of it's always fun to see what he comes up with. One last thing I think that Gary, the editor, asked me to mention is that he has quite a lot of kits available for review at the moment. So if anybody does want to review a model for scale aircraft modeling, just email the editor. The address is at the start of the magazine, Gary at guidelinepublications.co.uk, if memory serves. And yeah, let him know what you can do and what you want. He'll send you a list and send you a model. There's only one proviso to reviewing models for Sam. That is, you actually have to build them, which I know might be quite a daunting task for a lot of modelers. But we really do welcome anybody that wants to come and write for us and review kits for us, because the more opinions, the better. And lots of really, really great, talented article writers started out just doing reviews. So it's well worth it. And, drop them an email. Finally, on the aviation front, there's a new Warpaint title in the making. That's Warpaint number 152, which is on the Junkers Ju-86. That's the twin-engined bomber and reconnaissance aircraft. That's by Daniel Kowalczuk and should go to print early next month. So I would anticipate it being in the shops maybe sort of April, end of April time. Depends how long the printers take to do it. And that's it for this month, Sam. As I say, 19th of March. Look out for it. As ever, it'll be a cracker.
Okay. And obviously trying to keep you on track, what have we got for MMI?
Military Modelcraft International, again, out on the 19th or the 18th if you're a subscriber, has the usual mix of scales and subjects. Ivan presents Tamiya's venerable 30-year-old Panther AF-G, which I know a lot of modelers have built over the years, but he's doing it in an Ardennes diorama setting. So that'll be interesting to see what can be made of an old kit that I know a lot of people probably look slightly sideways at nowadays. The German armour content continues with the concluding part of the armour in profile, which I mentioned last time. That's on the Nashorn tank destroyer. So I'll finish that one on. And then I think this will be very interesting for a lot of British armour fans. We have Meng's new 1/35th scale Matilda 1, which is given a full build and assessment by our US assistant editor, Rob Vietzo. So he'll go to town on that one. Meng also have their Staghound armoured car in this issue. That's built by Ramon Segarra, who is a fantastically talented modeler and no doubt will do a really good job on it. If you prefer something a little bit more up-to-date, Gecko's M76 Otter is featured during the Vietnam War, while Max Lemaire and JC Vindels collaborate on a Toyota Technical. Both of those, again, are in 1/35th scale, I believe. And finally, in the scale that all modelers love, Chris Johnson finishes his I Love Kit Man 8x8 truck from last month's out of the box build. But we don't forget the small scale modeler in MMI. And Peter Hanno is building and painting Meng's T72 B3M just to keep things a bit more modern and small. And finally, the subject of the At the Bench interview is one of MMI's stalwarts, Stefan Szymanski. So that'll be a nice interview and a chance to get to know the modeler. And that's that for that one. So once again, David has presented a very disparate range of subjects. They're always well researched and well built, and it's well worth a look.
That sounds like a really good addition, even with Rob being in it.
Yeah, Matilda 1 has been, there was the resin kit, I think, wasn't there, of the Matilda, but this is Gecko's kit is the first injection molded one. It's an ungainly, it's almost like a steampunk thing, the Matilda 1, isn't it? But the Germans couldn't get through the armour in the Battle of France. And if the thing had gone more than 3 miles an hour and been able to do any more than just fire a heavy machine gun, it probably would have scared him a bit more, but they didn't like it up them, as they say.
Ooh, misses. Okay, moving on and going on to a different form of tracks. What's pulling into the station with the rail magazines?
Okay, so once again, with my usual apologies for not being a railway modeller, and Gary, the editor, Gary edits these magazines as well as Scale Aircraft Modelling, so he normally gives me these things to read out with the proviso that if you don't understand any of it, just read it out. So here we go. Anyway, British Railways Illustrated Brill, which will be available, as will all the railway modelling magazines, on the 26th of March, or the 25th if you're a subscriber. in this issue has, I really am tempted to do this like Mr. Chumley Warner, but I'm not going to, but here we go. So we have Symington Snapshots by Nick Deacon, the Caledonian Railway 944 class 462Ts, and the Wemsbay Tank Engines by David Anderson. Mick Watmo, I hope I've pronounced his name correctly, so apologies if I haven't, presents Before the University Part 2, the Lincoln-based XGER 060Ts, J65 to J69, while Peter Kerslake gives us a piece on the Turbomotive and Princess Anne. Andy Flowers has Brush Type 2s at East Anglia in the 1960s, and Peter Groom presents Melton Mowbray Memories. Finally, to round it all off, we have Oddments from the Bottom of the Shoebox, Big Headboards by Barry Taylor, which I'm guessing could be quite interesting. So there we are. Railway Bylines, which is the other kind of historical magazine for British Railway, has features in this issue The Cinder Path about Saffron Walden by Nick Deacon, A Moment at Merthyr by Keith Jones, while Barry Taylor gives us an article on the Clifford sidings. Peter Kerslake investigates decline and revival at Oakhampton, and Peter Groom has the intriguingly titled Some Gobblers, Class M15 and M15R. Finally, there's photographs and a story by Jonathan Gilbert called 1 out of 3, Bersham Colliery. And at the risk of upsetting some of the readers of Byline, which the editor reckons will create letters that start with, "Sir, imagine my surprise." It's a great article nonetheless. We have a modern Byline, the East London Line transformation in 2008. And it's been written as a sort of Back to the Future piece, as though we're 40 years in the future writing about what's happening now for people that have grown up with second generation diesel engines. That's by Keith Chambers. So that might be quite an interesting read, and hopefully it won't offend the people who think all trains just have steam coming out of them. Dave Marden gives us a rubbish railway, the Woolston Tip, and Alan C. Baker provides notes on industrial miscellany. Finally, I think Chris Mills gives us his article on Wither Team Valley. And that's it for Railway Bylines, again, out on the 26th of March. Or, as I keep saying, if you have a subscription, you'll get it in the post on your doorstep, on your doormat, through the letterbox a day before. The final railway magazine in the Guidelines family is, of course, the recently acquired Narrow Gauge and Industrial Railway Model Review. So NG and RMR, as we like to call it, issue 145, is full of modelling and reference features focusing on many of the lines and types of traction you will find in Bylines. If any of our listeners out there are also railway modellers who specifically are interested in narrow gauge and industrial topics, Gary the editor would love to hear from you. And again, that's out same as the other ones, 26th of March. And that completes the lineup for this month's Guideline magazines.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, John. And we will speak to you again in a month's time, which will be by the side of a pool in South Africa, won't it?
Yes, it might be with Table Mountain in the background, or it might be looking out on the Indian Ocean from the garden route with a glass of crisp South African wine in my hand.
Right.
So I promise I won't rub it in too much. It might actually be from the airbase in Cape Town, because they normally have open days. And if anybody is in Cape Town and you're an aviation enthusiast, get yourself along to the airbase there. They do fantastic open days, and you can wander into the hangar. You can literally climb all over the exhibits, and they're full of people who will pull bits off. I mean, I think I mentioned this before. Last time I was there, guy took the nose cone off an R530 missile for me to show me the radar. I mean, there's no ropes to keep you back. You can just get inside these things, and they're all really knowledgeable people. They're fantastic. That's the South African Air Force Base at Easterplaat. It's right in the middle of Cape Town. Definitely worth a go.
48 in 48, a global modelling marathon where builders unite, create, auction and support models for heroes, proving small-scale builds can make a huge difference. Head over to 48-48.org for event details, live updates, auctions, and ways you can join builders worldwide supporting models for heroes through creativity and community. Visit scalemodelpodcast.com, your hub for the best scale modelling pods, because finding great content shouldn't take longer than hunting for lost photo etch. Here comes the Stash Inflation Report, separating genuine must-haves from, well, it was on pre-order anyway.
Hi then, Benchmates. It's time once again for the part of the show quietly plotting against both your bench space and your bank balance. Yes, welcome back to the Stash Inflation Report. This is the segment where we take a look at the latest kit announcements and the new releases from across the hobby, and this time around there is plenty of aviation models to get excited about. So let's start in the skies of the Second World War. First up, ICM are giving us something a little different with a 48 scale Dornier DO217M1. And this one comes with a rather fascinating post-war twist. The Dornier 217M1 was a later developed Dornier bomber family powered by the DB603A engines, producing around 1750 horsepower, turning four-bladed props and pushing the aircraft to a top speed of roughly 557 kilometers an hour. Operationally, the aircraft served with the Luftwaffe bomber and reconnaissance units right through the final months of the war. But the real model of interest here comes from what happened after the war ended. In spring 45, one of these aircraft was captured intact at Belringe in Denmark. It was subsequently repainted in RAF markings, flown to Schleswig, and later transferred to Farnborough in October 45. There it flew test and demonstration sorties with a special squadron evaluating captured German aircraft remaining in the UK until the mid-1950s. So for modelers, this opens up two very interesting options, either a wartime Luftwaffe machine or a rather unusual post-war RAF evaluation aircraft that will definitely have people asking, hang on, what is that? On the display table. And in 1-48, it should make quite a centrepiece build. ICM are also releasing a 1-48 scale airfield set themed around the Martin B-26 Marauder and its bomber group operations. Now this one is perfect if you like to build aircraft with context. The set includes ground equipment, figures and accessories, making it ideal for creating a proper United States Army Air Force hardstand diorama, with the Marauder sitting surrounded by all the activity of the wartime bomber base. For diorama builders, this could be a very useful addition. Moving forward into Cold War and modern aviation, Clearprop models have revealed the marking options for their upcoming 1-72nd Sukhoi Su-25 Frogfoot. The kit promises high detail and 4 historically accurate schemes covering service across Eastern Europe from the 1990s through to more recent conflicts. The options include Slovak Air Force Su-25K White 1006, operating from the Malachi Kunacha in the 1990s with a beautiful weathered green camouflage. Next up, the Czech Air Force Su-25K White 1002, photographed at RAF Hereford in 1993, giving this one real air-shore appeal. And then two Ukrainian Air Force aircraft, Blue 22 from Kilbankno in 2014 and Blue 02 in 2003. Both featuring distinctive camouflage and board numbers that will definitely appeal to the modelers interested in modern operational aircraft. Now next up, this is a new release. This is very much aimed at the serious Mustang enthusiast. Duke Hawkins are releasing a limited edition P51D Mustang gift set, and it's absolutely packed with goodies. Inside the box, you'll get a 116-page reference book dedicated to the Mustang, an Edward 1-48 P51D kit with photo, 3D printed parts from Artscale, including seat with belts, exhausts and wheels, a custom decal sheet covering 6 Mustangs based in Belgium between late 1944 and early 45, full paint masks including a foam wheel bay mask set, and a luxury aviation art print by Christoph Giblin. The decal options include aircraft such as Beautiful Betty, Mary Mine, Stinky 2, the Hawkeye Owen, Miss Margie, and Cripes Amaya, flown by Major George Preddy, the top P-51 ace of the war. This is very much a collector's edition, but it also gives you everything needed to beautifully researched late war Mustang build. Over to KP, who are expanding their catalogue with several 1/72 Hawker Siddeley HS125 Dominique T1 releases. These include a prototype, a black and white scheme boxing, and an RAF service version. All are new toolkits, including 3D printed parts, covering multiple serial numbers. Great news for fans of the RAF trainers and military adaptations of business jets. They are also releasing a 72nd Messerschmitt Bf109A, Anton's First Blood, Premium Edition, complete with paint masks. Dwight continue their strong run of releases with a 48 scale limited edition P-51D titled Mighty 8th, 65th Fighter Wing. Inside you'll find 13 marking options covering aircraft from the 4th, the 355th, the 361st and the 479th fighter groups, along with pre-painted photo etch masks, resin wheels and exhausts. Also on the way is a 72nd MiG-21R Profi Pack featuring 5 marking options, Edward decals, pre-painted photo etch and masks, perfect for anyone interested in Cold War reconnaissance aircraft. Now for something from the First World War. Copper State models are releasing a 32nd scale Newport 11 in Italian service. This one will appeal to modelers who enjoy delicate structures, exposed rigging and an aircraft that looks far too fragile to fly, but yet somehow it did. And in 32nd scale, it should provide a beautiful detailed build for Great War enthusiasts. And finally, IBG models are adding several interesting aircraft into their 72nd scale catalogue. First up are the elegant Italian fighters, the Macchi C202 Folore and the Macchi C205 Veltro, both well known for their sleek lines and distinctive camouflage schemes. Also announced is the rugged Henschel HS129, the heavily armoured German ground attack aircraft, designed very much around the idea of function over form. And rounding things out is the Spitfire Mark 5B Tropical, set in North Africa during 1942-43. Complete with a distinctive Vaux filter and desert camouflage, perfect for anyone building desert airfoil subjects. Altogether, a very strong lineup from IBG, particularly for 1/72 scale modelers, looking to expand both Axis and Allied collections. So plenty of new aircraft heading towards the stash this month, but if you prefer your subjects with tracks, armour plating and a bit more mud than altitude, then it's time to hand things over to Dan. Dan, what's rolling onto the armour bench this time?
Cheers, Boulders. Right then, Benchmates, Dan here, and if you thought the aviation releases were tempting, the armour and figure world has been just as busy. Let's kick things off with something aimed at those of you building the Academy 135th Hetzer. Now, as good as this kit is, it does come with a few accuracy quirks, and one of the most noticeable is the shape of the Salkopf gun mantlet, that distinctive pig's head armour around the cannon. Well, Special Hobby have stepped in with a neat solution in the form of a printed correction sets. There are 2 variants available depending on the specific vehicle you're modelling. The short mantlet version, which is catalogue number P35042, and the long variant P35043. Which one you'll need depends on the period photographs of the particular vehicle you're recreating, so it's one for the reference books before committing to paint. A small correction, but one that makes a noticeable difference on the finished model. Next up, we move to Masterbox, who are continuing their run of characterful World War II figure sets. Their latest release is German Infantry, Bastogne, 1944. You have to say it like that. Kit number 35254 in 1/35th scale. This set includes 4 German infantry figures moulded across 2 plastic sprues. One sprue contains the soldiers themselves, dressed in a mix of greatcoats and reversible winter parkas, perfect for representing the brutal winter conditions of the Battle of the Bulge. The second sprue provides a generous selection of weapons and equipment, including K98 rifles, MP40s and MP44s, gas mask canisters, flasks, bread bags and ammunition pouches. Interestingly, production of this kit was delayed due to attacks on power stations in Ukraine and the resulting electricity shortages over the winter, which gives you an idea of the very real-world challenges some manufacturers are facing. This set forms part of a two-kit duology focusing on the fighting around Bastogne in December 1944, when the 101st Airborne famously held the town against overwhelming German forces, leading to General McAuliffe's legendary response to the German surrender demand. Nuts! The figures work perfectly as a standalone vignette or combined with Masterbox Kit 35253 for larger Ardennes dioramas. Expect to see these start appearing in the hobby shops next month. Masterbox are also adding a little humour to the bench with another entry in their pin-up series. This kit, 24087, all the way, in 1/24 scale. The series is a playful take on the iconic wartime US Army recruitment posters, blending classic 1940s pin-up styling with a tongue-in-cheek military theme. It's a fun little kit that would make a great display companion for vehicle models or diorama scenes, or just something a little bit different on the shelf. Now, moving briefly into early automotive history, ICM have announced a rather charming subject. This is the 1918 Ford Model T Doctor's Coupe, kit number 35830 in 1/35th scale. Now, most people know the Model T as the car that revolutionised the industry when Henry Ford introduced the moving assembly line in 1913, turning the automobile into the world's first true mass-produced vehicle. Only available in black, I think, was the options at the time. By the following year, over half the cars produced in the United States were Model Ts. This particular version, the Doctor's Coupe, was an enclosed single-seat car with a rear trunk used to carry medical equipment. It became popular with rural doctors who needed a reliable vehicle capable of travelling long distances in all weather. The kit itself includes 98 parts, measures around 99mm long, and represents a slightly different modelling subject for anyone interested in early 20th century vehicles or First World War era scenes. Release is scheduled for March 2026. And finally, something that would make a fantastic addition to any Liberation of France diorama. Black Snake Models have announced high-resolution resin figure set depicting fighters of the French resistance in 1944. These figures represent members of the FFI, Français Intérieur, the network of resistance fighters who emerged from the shadows during the summer of 1944, as Allied forces advanced across France. The figures wear a mix of civilian clothing and captured or improvised military gear, armed with typical resistance weapons and posed in dynamic ambush and urban combat stances. They're beautifully sculpted in and printed in high-resolution resin and would fit perfectly into liberation-themed dioramas, particularly those depicting the chaotic street fighting during the final months of the war. So that's it from the armour, figure and historical side of the stash this episode. But things are about to get a little more futuristic again, because next up we're heading into the world of gunpla, mechs and sci-fi modelling. And for that I'm heading over to Shane. Shane, what's marching into the Gundam stash this time?
Cheers, Dan. Right then, Benchmates. Shane here. And if you thought your stash was safe after that lot, well, I'm afraid I brought reinforcements. Kicking off with the Katabuya Schneider Noctria close-in assault type. Now, this is one of the Katabuki's variable input official system model series, which means parts are interchangeable across the entire range. So this one's perfect for those of you that like to kit bash and make something completely unique. Now, the Noctria's frame is all about high-speed, close-quarters combat, and the kit reflects that with some of the lovely engineering touches. You get articulated chest joints, a deployable core, a dedicated booster unit, and a whole armory to play with. So weapons in this one include a handgun, a laser slicer, a plasma missile launcher, and a burst rifle, plus the weapon hangers for both sides that are special connectors so that you can load this thing up like a walk-in armory. Now, the release is penciled in for around July 26, and prices look to be in circa of £100. Next on the list is a third-party take on a very famous Gundam. This, from Shenzhou, is the MG EX 1100 scale Unicorn Gundam 02 Banshee OVA version. This kit is turning heads because it includes a fully integrated blue LED lighting system for the Psycho frame. Always a crowd pleaser when the lights go down in the display cabinet. You also get a display base, 3 Gatling shields, and the full weapon system loadout. So it features pre-coated armor parts, specialized claw equipment, and according to several early build reports, including some lively discussions over on Reddit, the hands are actually better engineered than Bandai's original MGEX release. Inside the box, you'll find the main body, 3 shields, 3 Gatling guns, weapons, display based and stand. And this one's expected in Q2 26, and it's a real eyebrow raiser. It's around £35. Yeah, you've heard it right, guys, 35. Which means it's either one of 2 things. It's either bargain of the year, or Bandai's lawyers are currently warming up their printer. Now, moving on to something a little bit more mysterious. Next up, we've got something from the 30-minute mission series. And this one's called The Unspeakable. Yeah, that's its actual name. And it's inspired by the video game. And its in-game lore, this particular Arsenal unit is an experimental machine belonging to the Control Bureau Neon, wrapped in what's described as a wood-clad armour. Very cheerful. Like the rest of the 30-minute line, this follows Bandai's modular build philosophy, meaning it's fully compatible with the other kits in the range. So if you want to create your own completely custom Nightmare mech, you absolutely can. The scale is 144. Release is expected in November, and the price is roughly £40. Now, for something big, very big. The Tron model Evangelon, EVA-01. Based on the legendary Neon Genesis Evangelon, this beast stands 30 centimeters tall and is absolutely packed with articulation. The standard kit includes the unit itself with 2 electromagnetic rifles, 4 progressive knives, umbilical cable, multiple hand options. If you go for the deluxe version, things get properly serious. You'll get the internal skull structure, metal parts, restraint frame, transport base, AT field effect parts, and the spear. This is another one that's expected just after the summertime this year, and pricing currently looking at around £65 or more depending on the version, which for something this size and its complexity is pretty tempting. Now, let's step into the gritty retro feature of Machining Krieger. Hasegawa are bringing back the Fireball SG Intruder. Originally released in 2019, this 1/35th scale actually comes as a 2-kit set, allowing you to build a pair of these iconic armor suits. The Intruder variant includes new parts specific to the configuration, and like most MAA kits, it's designed very much with experienced modelers in mind, so expect plenty of painting, layering, and character building. The moulding quality is excellent, as you'd expect from Hasegawa, and the design practically begs for heavy chipping, dust effects, battlefield grime. Retail price is around £30, but a word of warning, these things tend to disappear quickly, so once they do, prices on the aftermarket will climb rather dramatically. Next up, something that will appeal to both Star Wars fans and figure modelers. Bandai are releasing a 1/12 scale Mandalorian and Grogu kit, based on the upcoming movie. This is a snap-fit Bandai kit, so no blue required, pre-coloured parts straight out the box. The Mandalorian features updated armour and equipment, while Grogu can be displayed in multiple ways, standing, armoured version, or perched on Mando's shoulder. So 1/12 meaning the Mandalorian stands at about 5 to 6 inches tall. Pre-orders are already appearing with retailers, and this one is expected to release in May. Prices seem to be hovering between £40 and £50. Last up and hot off the press, Gundam Assemble, which is Bandai's take on tabletop gaming, but Gundam style. As you'd expect from Bandai, they've got us covered with starter sets, deluxe sets, and expansion sets. If you want to find out some more information, guys, and you want to learn how to play it, head over to the Bandai hobby page, and there's video tutorials all over their web for you. This is due for release in October this year. So there you go, Benchmates. From glowing Gundams to a sea of Gundams all over your tabletop, your stash probably just got a little bit bigger. Speaking of things arriving by sea, I'm now going to hand you over to a man who appears to have been loitering suspiciously around the docks again. Nebs, what's sending into the stash for the ship modelers this time?
Thanks, Shane. And just Gundam update there. Always good to know the mechs are still stomping around the galaxy, whilst the rest of us are quietly building ships in 1/700 scale. Right then, Benchmates, let's head down to the docks and see what's sailing into the stash this month. First up, Starling Models have announced 3 new 3D printed upgrade sets aimed squarely at fans of Airfix's classic 1/600th scale ship kits. Now, these are particularly interesting because many of those vintage Airfix kits are being re-released in the Vintage Classics range, and these upgrade sets give them a very welcome modern lift. The first set is for the Second World War H-class destroyer HMS Hotspur. There's also an upgrade set for the post-war HMS Leander, a ship that many Royal Navy enthusiasts will instantly recognise. And finally, something rather nice for carrier fans, a late 1960s to early 1970s air group set for the HMS Victorious. All 3 are designed specifically to enhance the classic Airfix kits. So if you've got one tucked away in the stash, these could be just the thing to bring it right up to modern display standards. Next up, Yamashita Hobby have announced they'll be tooling a 1/700th scale Akizuki class destroyer, depicting the IJN Fuyazuki from the Second World War. The Akizuki class were purpose-built anti-aircraft destroyers designed to escort and protect Japanese carrier groups from air attack. This new release is expected to be a high-detail injection-moulded kit, and while it will likely sit at a slightly higher price point than your typical Tamiya or Aoshima 1/700 destroyer, it should fit beautifully alongside existing Imperial Japanese Navy waterline fleets already sitting on many shelves. So if you're building a serious late war IGN lineup, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Now for something that's less of a kit and more of a display centerpiece. Hasegawa are releasing a very special edition of the 1/700th Japanese pre-dreadnought battleship. This true display special includes a full hull, allowing you to recreate Mikasa's distinctive ram bow, along with a complete bow-to-stern photo-etch detailing set and a wooden display base. We haven't really seen this level of treatment for Mikasa for around 10 years, so this release is clearly aimed at serious naval historians and ship modelers. If the Russo-Japanese War is your particular corner of naval history, this could easily become a real centerpiece build, not just another ship in the fleet. Now, true to my earlier predictions, the Fujimi Mogami-class cruiser lineup clearly wasn't stopping with the Suzuya. We're now expecting the Heavy Kumada to arrive later this May, depicted as she appeared during Operation Sho Ichigo in 1944 during the defense of the Philippines. This 1/700 full hull release should bring impressive detail straight out of the box and will be another strong addition for anyone recreating the late war Imperial Japanese Navy at scale. And finally, something a little bit different. Model Fun Shipyard have announced a 1/700 waterline resin 3D printed kit depicting a fascinating what-if design. This is the A7 design US Navy battleship from the interwar period. Now imagine something roughly the size of Graf Spee, but armed with dual 16-inch guns. This concept wasn't driven by treaty restrictions, but rather an attempt to control the spiralling cost of building full-scale battleships. In other words, it's an American pocket battleship concept. It's a wonderfully unusual design and opens up some fantastic diorama possibilities. You could place it somewhere moored along the US eastern coast, or perhaps drop it into an alternate history battleship row at Pearl Harbor just before December 7th, 1941. For anyone who enjoys a bit of creative what-if naval modelling, this one could be great fun. And with that, Benchmates, the shipyard gates are closing for this episode's Stash Inflation Report. Between Boulders, Dan, Shane and myself, your wallet has probably taken a bit of incoming fire this week. But just remember, it's not about hoarding. It's about future project management. We'll be back next episode with more new releases, quietly plotting against your bench space and your bank balance.
Fishcop Models, elevating scale modeling to an art form. Experience highly detailed 3D printed upgrade parts that bring true authenticity to your builds. Creators of the acclaimed Rolls-Royce Merlin engine set for both the Kotare Spitfire and the Dambusters set for the border models Avro Lancaster. For bespoke design and printing, our service is as precise as it is personal, all at a reasonable price. Please take a look at our products on www.fishcopcompany.de. Shipping is available for all of our products worldwide.
It's time for the IPMS Dispatches, your regular spotlight on events, branches and SIGs.
So we haven't done one of these for a while, so we've got a spotlight on the West Midlands Police Scale Model Club, and I am joined by Matt Nichols. Hi Matt, how are you doing?
Good evening, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. Let's go into the questions then. The West Midlands Police Scale Model Club brings together serving officers, retired officers, police staff and even family members who share an interest in scale modelling. How did the idea for a dedicated modelling club within the force come about?
It was the brainchild of a retired police officer, Rob Scott, otherwise known as Minty. He posted the idea on our force intranet system, asking if anybody was interested in scale modelling, and formed basically the initial meeting at Tally Ho, which is our sports and social centre. We reached out to various people, and those who were interested came along to sort of first meeting and got involved from there. So he did it initially, one, because of his interest, but also I think on the same lines as Models for Heroes, for police officers that obviously suffer trauma at front line and find a certain amount of solace in the hobby. I know I used to, when I used to come home from a shift, sit at the bench and do an hour or so. It just helps you sort of wind down. But yeah, that was the start of it. And that was back in 2020.
Okay. So one thing that stands out from the club community is how inclusive it is, welcoming anyone who's become connected with the police force, who enjoys the hobby. But how important is that shared creative space away from the day-to-day pressures of policing?
First of all, it's open to anybody. It's not just police officers, police staff.
Okay.
To anybody to come along and join. We've got a number of members that have nothing to do with the police family, if you like. So it's not restricted to police officers, police staff. It's open to anybody to join, come along and be a member. And we welcome sort of everybody. And we find that the benefits, not only on the social side, but we basically are part of West Midlands Police Sports and Wellbeing Centre. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones who sponsor us, if you like, and allow us to have our show, and they provide us some funding, do all that.
That's helpful.
So we've got to thank those people, really. But it brings together, I mean, the members that we've got around approximately about 14, 15 members. So it's not big. We meet once a month, and most people attend, apart from the ones who are still serving and they have to work around their shifts, respectively. But so it's great. There's no politics involved with the club. We just come together, talk about the hobby, take the mick, and just enjoy it. And then once the meeting's over, we just pop next door to the hotel and have a cheeky pint.
As you do.
As you do. So it works well. And clearly we've formed the club in such a way now that we managed to put on displays at various shows to what I think is a very high standard. All the members in our club built to a decent standard. So that's it, really.
Okay, what's the age range of members?
I don't want to put people off. So I'm 60. I think the age range is going to be anywhere from between mid-30s to 60 plus and a bit.
Anyone younger is listening to this, obviously they can get in touch and come along as well.
Oh, absolutely. More than welcome. More than welcome.
Okay. So your Facebook community shows a steady flow of builds and discussions and meetups. How important has social media been in growing the club and keeping members connected between meetings?
Very well, really. I'm obviously admin on the social media site, and we have a couple of members that sort of monitor it. And although people can't necessarily get to a meeting, we do have a lot of interest from people far afield. We had somebody that was inquiring from the States that clearly will never be able to make a meeting, but they just wanted to be part of that, of the site, of the Facebook page, and just either comment or see what we put on. Every time we have a meeting, I do my best to photograph the models that members bring and post them. But it's an open platform. It's just to share the hobby, really, and just to make people aware. And we're happy to pick up any questions from people that can't make the meetings. Sometimes they'll see us at shows and introduce themselves. But yeah, we've only got the Facebook page.
Okay.
That's all we have at the moment.
Okay, modelling can be a solitary hobby, yet clubs like this turn it into a shared experience. What do you think members get most out of being a member of the West Midlands Police Scale Modelling Club community?
To be honest, I think you've got that camaraderie, really. You've got that friend base. Every time when somebody comes to the club or attends a show and speaks to us on the stand, they've got our sort of utmost attention, really. And we're happy to discuss anything about the hobby. We're even happy to discuss questions about the police, if you like, with our sort of time in the force. And we don't turn anybody away. We're just open to any questions related to the hobby, and we'll just answer to the best of our ability, really. I think it's a sort of hobby. I've been modelling for 55 years. And in that time, I'm still learning. I'm still asking members how to do this particular technique, or what do you use for this sort of particular filler, or what pressure do you think you paint for putting it on? Still ask questions all the time. We've all got something unique to bring to the club.
Yep.
And then we like to share that out, especially with us getting around to the different shows now. To Telford, we've got the show at the NEC, the Key Model World exhibition at the NEC. That was favourable, and we had a lot of interest from there. And just local shows, and obviously with Bolton, when I met you there, we think it's a great show. Yeah, we'd love to come up and exhibit as a club, but we've got to make sure that we've got the numbers that are committed, that can go there, that aren't otherwise attached to the work and the police and their shifts. So,
yeah. Okay. Obviously, talking about shows, the point for actually coming on the episode is to talk about the Blue Lamp Model Expo, which is coming up very shortly. We obviously gave the date and location out in the last episode, but we'll go back through that in the end. But the show is a unique concept, a modelling show created by a police club. What inspired the launch of an event like this in the first place?
We were in the fortunate position that when the club was formed, we had the use of Tally Ho, which was a training facility on the Pershore Road in Birmingham. And they've got a large sort of meeting area known as the Lord Knight Suite, and it led itself to be able to host a show. And because we were supported by the Sports and Wellbeing Association, it was provided to use. And so we thought, why not? Let's put a show on. Let's give it a go. I've got experience from doing shows in the past. I'm an active member of IPMS Birmingham and treasurer on the committee there. And we've done a show in the past. We'll give it a go. And because it was funded the way it was through the police wellbeing, any profits that we made, we was able to donate to charity.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it was our way of giving a bit back.
Okay.
So the venue's gone back to being operational, so we could no longer meet there.
Mm-hmm.
With the support that we get from the police, we're able to hire a meeting hall and meet there. We have to pay a membership to the Sports and Social Club, which is no more than the cost of a cup of coffee a month. So it's not too bad at all. So that's where it was formed. And then sadly, we had one show and then we lost a couple of shows there due to COVID and the passing of the Queen. We had to close it down. And then we changed our venue to have our show now at Woodrush High School.
Okay. So for someone thinking of attending the Blue Lamp Expo for the first time, what kind of atmosphere and displays can they expect when they walk through the doors?
So we've got two. When we first started the show, we had one hall, which is a school hall. We've been able to branch out now and have a sports hall as well. So there's two reasonably large halls where we've got a number of clubs and traders, probably approximately about 7 traders. But it's got to a point where we've got a list of clubs and traders that wish to attend, and we've had to say, sorry, we can't accommodate. We're now full, or we've reached the required limits without it getting too busy in there. So you've got that. Public are allowed access into the show from 10 a.m. in the morning. So you can wander around the displays. We'll have a competition as well for people to enter. And there's also catering as well put on by the Woodrush Sports Hub. It's a resident cafe there. So all the feedback that we've had previous years has been positive. The only problems that we had in previous years is that the show was held on a Saturday, mid to late August. So we found that it clashed with a lot of things. People didn't necessarily like a Saturday show, and it sort of hit the holiday season. But we were tied in to when we could use it because of the school. So this year we've been able to bring it forward to the 29th of March, which is Easter break. and hopefully we'll get a lot more footfall. It's a show. It's, like I say, the old cliche. It's put on by modelers for modelers, and it was just sad in previous years that we just had low footfall. Really, the support was there from the clubs, as always, but hopefully this year we'll see a bit of a difference, and then that may lead to us doing a bigger show than Bolton next year, which I doubt very much.
Yeah, just wondering what you've been drinking there.
I know you have to aspire to these things, don't we?
Okay, so the show often brings together different communities, modelers, emergency service enthusiasts, and historic vehicle groups. How important is that crossover between the real vehicles and the scale modelers that they represent them?
So our first show, we have the police vintage vehicle owners club, if you like. So they came, and it was an outside attraction for a lot of people, and it was just a case of having that police theme. Now, there are scale models of police vehicles. Clearly, you can get them, but they tend to be not the ones we drive today, if that makes sense. They don't seem to. I was in the job, we drove sort of insignias and things like that, which I've never seen a model of an insignia. But it was just another point of interest for people, really, just an attraction.
Yeah. Does anyone actually make a scale model of a Ford Fiesta for modern vehicles then?
I don't think so, no, not at all. I don't know. I mean, when I joined the job, I think the car that I was in was a Vauxhall Astra, and it was gas powered with a single blue beacon on the roof. That's how bad it was. But they'll always do models of your flash Volvos or your traffic vehicles and the high performance type vehicles, but not your everyday run of the mill club vehicles that you see. But yeah, and I think last year we tried to have a police theme as best we can. Last year we was able to have a representative from our Force Honour Guard who do all ceremonial duties, and so he was dressed in his full regalia. Well, it might have been the year before that, actually. But then it was a nice touch because he was able to get out the awards, and so people got to have their photograph, with the police officer in full uniforms. But we do get restricted. Obviously, the job, it does restrict you to what you can actually get and what you can do. But the premise is still there and the theme's still there. So yeah, it's just what we do, and how we'll keep doing it for hopefully years to come.
Okay. So many model shows focus purely on the hobby. Blue Lamp obviously has a strong community and charitable element. How important is it for the event to give something back to organisations connected with policing?
I think it's very important where we can. The charitable donations that we gave in the past have been to Air Ambulance. So once again, not associated to the police, but we've used them. You have to work with that department and that service, as we do with all the tri-services, with fire and ambulance. And we've given donations to the Police Benevolent Fund, help those, and we've also given donations to Models for Heroes. So we try to give it a bit of a broad spectrum, really. And so that's our way of giving a bit back.
Yeah, fair enough. Not a problem. Okay, so looking ahead to the 2026 show in a couple of weeks' time, what are you most excited for visitors and modelers to experience at this year's event?
I think just to come to the show, enjoy it, and just be relaxed. Just walk around the show. Like you say, we've got a number of traders there that we haven't had last year, and there's going to be quite a broad variety of things that people can purchase if they wish to, from kits to tools and paints and things like that. And the support from the clubs that we've got as well. I've got to be thankful to IPMS Birmingham, because we haven't necessarily got the members in our club. IPMS Birmingham have always offered to help out when it comes to running the show. They help us do car park duties and things like that, and man the gates. Because we have a structured, I will comment on the fact that we have a structured regime, really, where traders come in at 8 o'clock to set up, and then clubs in at 9 o'clock, and then the public in at 10 o'clock. So if it wasn't for IPMS Birmingham members, we'd struggle trying to man that. But yeah, hopefully there'll be lots to see. It's a nice environment. It's a relaxed environment, good catering, and it's a couple of hours out your day. Just come along and enjoy yourself.
Fantastic. So what date is it?
It's on Sunday, the 29th of March.
Okay, and where is it?
It's held at Woodrush High School, which is Shawhurst Lane, Hollywood in Birmingham. And the postcode is Bravo 47 5 Juliet Whiskey.
Fantastic. Okay, and how much is it to get in?
It's £5 entry. Under 16s are free.
Okay. Matt, thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you.
Hopefully everyone who's actually got some spare time will pop along and actually support the show. And I'm sure we will bump into each other sometime later in the year for a catch-up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for allowing me to come on and promote the show. Thank you.
Not a problem in the slightest. And if you want to promote your show, just drop us an email to info@beyondtheboxart.com. And so now on to the next IPMS event, which is in the Philippines. Right then, we're heading somewhere very special. Because the modelling world continues to grow globally, and one of the events that has been making serious waves in recent years is the Philippine Scale Model Show, also known as PSMS. Organised by IPMS Philippines, Bertanido, PSMS has rapidly evolved from a strong national competition into a genuinely international event, bringing together builders, artists, vendors and hobbyists from across Southeast Asia and beyond. With hundreds of entries, international participation, workshops, displays and a real festival atmosphere, this is far more than just a competition. It's a celebration of the hobby and the community behind it. Joining us today to tell us more about this fantastic event are two guests. John Limjap from the organising team, helping drive the vision and growth behind this exciting event. Alongside him is RJ Villarol, an award-winning modeller and multiple medal winner across recent shows, bringing both a competitor's perspective and a first-hand experience of what makes this event special. So whether you're curious about attending, thinking about entering, or just want to discover one of the fastest growing shows on the international calendar, let's dive in. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. So, John, PSMS has grown from 600 entries in 2024, 750 in 2025. What does that growth say about the modeling scene in the Philippines right now?
Oh, it's absolutely exciting. We think that it reflects, the growing interest in the modeling scene. Although there's a bit of transformation that you would see it, we are seeing, because a lot of the bigger part of our show nowadays is the sci-fi category, specifically the mechas, the mecha category. And by mechas, I mean Gundam or the third-party Gundam-like models that join the show. We are one of the first major competitions that have accepted both Bandai and non-Bandai mechas and just let them go at each other regardless of the brand, and allowing them to just fight it out in terms of skill. So that has brought a lot of excitement. But that's not to say that there's no excitement in other categories. We have a lot of great car modelers that we are seeing, a lot of great diorama makers, a lot of great figure painters. The Warhammer community is actually really also a growing segment of our competition. So all of that is bringing all this new excitement, new flavor on top of the regulars, which are our military scale modelers, your aircraft, your armor vehicles, and all of that, and the ships, of course. And generally, it's just exciting to see so much interest and so many young people getting interested in the hobby. You usually getting one foot in with Gundam and then taking interest in other subjects as they gain more skill and more. So yeah, it's really great.
We've noticed over here that the age demographic seems to be reducing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's younger people coming, and the Gundam and the mecha side is starting to finally take off over here compared to what it has been recently, which is why we've got Shane and also now Chris helping us with the Stash Inflation report with what's coming out with both the Bandai and the non-Bandai elements. So we're trying to actually expand on that side of the show as well. We've just had Lincoln Wright on talking about the Maschinen Krieger.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that as well. We're trying to actually branch out, and obviously we're not just ships, which it appears to be at the moment with our team, but aircraft. We cover all types of modelling on the show. So it's good to hear that it's not just over here. Wongi has said in Hong Kong, the shops that you've got, which are just wall-to-wall Gundam, compared to the UK, where it's normally just about, 10, 20 boxes at most. I can see that changing. I can see younger people coming into the hobby, which is what we need.
Yes.
And people to say it's not real modeling. It is. It absolutely is. So fantastic. It's great to hear. Okay, so from someone listening overseas who's never been to Manila, what would generally surprise them about the scale and atmosphere of PSMS?
Oh, well, probably one of the most unique aspects of PSMS is that it's held in a mall. And for those who are not in the know about or haven't visited Manila yet, Manila is in love with its malls. It's our de facto public space. And that's is everywhere. It's everywhere in the city. There are different malls across the city. And Manila Bay is one of the new malls that happens to be really close to the airport as well. And that Bay Area, that airport area adds to the appeal that we had the case last year. It was so funny. Somebody from the Czech Republic actually flew in at 8 p.m. with us having a 9 p.m. deadline of entries. And they actually got the grab. A grab is like Uber in Southeast Asia. So he got the grab, went straight to the mall with his luggage and got his entry. But the fact that it is in a mall, the difference is that the audience is so wide. And the audience that we get is really, a lot of times, it's people who are not really expecting to, are not really planning to go to the model show. A lot of times it's just families with children, young kids. They see so we hold it in the lobby of the mall, which also happens to be their activity center. And when the kid, when the families enter the mall, the kids see what's going on and they pull their parents in and they say, I want to see this, want to see that. And a lot of the parents end up also having to buy stuff for their kids afterwards. But it's really a great atmosphere. We have a great mix of people, both the people who have been in the hobby for so long and people who are seeing it for the first time. I think that's what's unique to the Philippine Scale Model Show. Yeah, so the PSMS, as we have it, we usually have other side activities. We have a lot of vendors around, but we also have modeling workshops. So one of our distributors, they would have people line up to get a free Gundam that they could assemble on the stage on site and then try it out. And then we have several paint vendors that would also let people have usually a small model. One have 3D printed tiny cats, really cute stuff. And then another vendor, or the local distributor for Warhammer, would some actually give out Warhammer figures for people to try to paint, and they could take those home. And so that's a great, one of the great attractions that we have, is that all these activities let people try their hand at the hobby, different aspects of it, whether it's assembly or painting. The other activities that we have include tabletop games. So definitely, I've been mentioning Warhammer. There are actually Warhammer tournaments that happen concurrent. The show, it's not just one floor. So there's an activity area where the exhibits are, but we have also another area right on the floor above that is visible from below, where the Warhammer games, and I think last year we had BattleTech there as well. Those activities are also available. There's a different tournament going on with them, and they have different prices and all of that. And then we also invite cosplayers. We also last year we invited the local 501st Legion. So we have stormtroopers on the floor. People could take pictures with them. Last year, they were actually had a partnership with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's a charity. So people who are having their pictures, they could also give a little bit to charity. And then what else? I think I almost missed the Philippine Veterans Association office that they offer talks about Philippine history. We have a lot of dioramas around World War II in the Philippines. We actually had a Willie's Jeep on the floor last year. I don't know if we'll have that back. And we do have reenactors for World War II. They're wearing both Filipino, American, and Japanese uniforms that were used in the Philippines during the Second World War. So yeah, aside from that, there's a lot more. Last year, we had the book launch by Ed Nam, who have that really lovely book. It's called an anthology, and it's about Gundam sci-fi and customizing sci-fi builds. And that's a really great vibe last year with all those activities on the floor.
It sounds really, really busy.
It is.
Okay, so Going to the actual competition side of the event, some of your team have judged internationally in Malaysia, Taiwan and Hong Kong. What elements of those shows do you think has influenced PSMS, and what makes the Philippine show stand out in its own right?
Yeah. So a big part of the PSMS was inspired by, I guess the biggest influence are two shows in the region. There's the Reality Fantasy Taiwan International Model Competition, and then there's the Malaysia International Model Show. And in fact, the Taiwan team supported us so much in 2024 during the first PSMS. I believe there were 35 of them that flew over and entered their entries and won awards and won their medals. They still won last year in the 2025 edition. Their support is so massive. I mean, they had their deputy consul grace the show and just visit us. And so much so that I think the show was featured in Taiwanese news because of that. And the kind of support that they give us is really valuable in terms of standing out. Again, what I feel is like we're trying to follow their footsteps in a way, but we're also putting in our unique, how do I say it, our own style on it and our own vibe, because the other competitions, they're standalone, they're really in separate convention centers. We really can't it's difficult to compare because of the different sizes. I mean, this year I think Taiwan's show was supported by the Taiwan Defense Department, so they had a lot of military exhibits on site and they had a full gamut of cosplayers on site. We'll probably get there. We're trying to follow those footsteps.
Somehow, the Philippine or Filipino hospitality shines through. And it's not just about competition, it's about camaraderie, it's about friendships being made between nationalities and also within the region. So, mainly the Philippine Scale Model Show, is there to also show the world or the region the level of model building in the Philippines. We're not normally featured in shows or in magazines, but slowly we're getting there. One of our local builders was featured in Sam magazine. I believe it's a UK publication, right?
It is. And one of our sponsors.
Oh, yeah. So with a P-50, a Philippine Air Force P-51 Mustang.
I remember the build. It was very nice.
Yeah. Is that Vince Moicos?
Yes, it's Vince Moicos.
And Vince has joined the competition regularly as well.
Makes it, the vibe is totally different because it's not just plastic modelers. They're gamers. There are, as they said, science fiction modelers from mecha to Gundams. So people get a chance to see other people's outlook on their hobbies. And sometimes you pick up new things for your hobby too, especially between mecha builders and military mod.
Yeah.
So it's open to everybody.
Yeah, it's open to everybody. Yes, it is. May I add to that hospitality a bit? Because it is in a mall with a lot of restaurants and a lot of other places to hang out. So it gives us an opportunity to just let the people try the local food, just eat with them, dine with them throughout the day. And we end up really staying very late afterwards. Entertaining everybody who, especially the foreign guests that we have that joined the show. It's an interesting twist, and yeah, anybody from abroad would be free to join us if they want in on that fun.
That sounds great. RJ, as someone who's won medals across multiple years, what's the judging standard like? Is it accessible to newcomers, or is this an elite level competition?
The competition for PSMS is really geared for beginners in the competition level, like people who want to join to try out their build skills. Again, people regionally or internationally. what PSMS offers the modeler, the Filipino modeler, or the international modeler, is that it's basically what do you call it, open field, meaning people who are starting out, want to try out in a competition, they won't feel very intimidating. Because, I mean, the grading system, or for example, in one category, two people or three people can actually win, let's say, a gold medal, as long as they meet the criteria of the points between 90 to 100. If there's three or four people who meet the grade, they will win three. I mean, each person will win a gold. It's the same at each category, like silver or bronze. So that's what's so nice about it. It's not like first, second, and third. First, second, three people would win. A gamut of people would win as long as the points system meets the respective brackets of gold, silver, and bronze. So I think, for example, for me, I was quite surprised because I entered some of my old builds. What I found, because I've been entering in local local IPMS nationals. And of course, sometimes you expect to win because people, as you said, some people are intimidated. There's only the same people joining the contest. So you already know their styles and you know how to go against it, you know? So PSMS offered the local builders or local modelers an international level of competition. So people who are judging are not just local judges, but foreign judges. There will be more foreign judges, but that you get to that level of competition. And I was quite surprised at one point in time. A lot of the foreign, let's say the Taiwanese and the Malaysian competitors, when they observed the Filipino modeler, the military modeler, okay, from my category, they would say, "You guys, you build like IPMS US. It's very highly technical. It's very I mean, it's everything's glued properly, seams disappear, but it looks dead." Meaning that's how I was thought as a modeler. You will win because your model is built well. You're at 100%. But at a certain level in time, people will rise in that kind of level of skill. So what makes it different between other people or other competitors? I'm not saying that it's expert level only. So what brings in could be somebody who just started out in the hobby, but in military modeling, right, their method of building would be, or finishing, will be completely different from, let's say, my modeling bracket, age bracket. Say, people haven't absorbed the new style of plastic modeling. What I've noticed is that for me, the international judges give a lot of emphasis on making your build interesting, meaning putting life into it, putting interest. So that's how your skill level should rank, even if it's out of the box. You can actually make the model spring to life, painting, direction of etc. It's like a painting. You're no longer just building a model, but you're also creating a sort of, what's this, story in your build.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You've raised a very interesting point that I hadn't considered before our conversation, in that, do you think that countries like the Philippines, etc., were influenced heavily by the available scale modeling magazines that were available? So people saying your builds were like the American style. Was it because of the magazines like Fine Scale Modeler and you're using those as a template? Compared to now, you've got the internet, you've got much wider travel available to people, and the styles have changed and other countries' styles have actually been brought into yours?
Yes, I agree. We were highly influenced by the publications like Fine Modeler, because we rarely get other publications like Exam or Military Modeler and things like that. But yes, it's the internet expanded horizon. But of course, it depends on, for example, for us IPMS guys, we've always been guided by the IPMS USA rules for us to deviate from that. But then, of course, that's why PSMS is there, because you're exposed to different styles of the modeling. So you grow as a modeler. You join the competition, you learn, lose, or if you don't win anything, that's fine. But you get something out of it. You maybe for, let's say, for people who are in the West, meaning in Western Europe or the United States, if they come to the Philippines and join PSMS, they'll see firsthand, and talk to the actual modeler who's there. They said, hey, maybe, so how did you do that? How did the thought process come about to make that what the mindset rather than, okay, how did you fill it up properly? Which tools did you use to stand it properly? And things like that. It's no longer that type of discussion. It's more of, let's share the creative side, plastic modeling.
Yes, agree, totally agree. And from what we were saying, the judging criteria, what advice would you give to someone thinking about, are my builds good enough to enter?
I'll answer that question because unlike my fellow modelers and my fellow organizers in the PSMS, I'm one of the guys who hasn't ever won an award in a competition. I recently just went back to the hobby after a really long hiatus. I even, during the first year of PSMS, I didn't even have an entry of my own because they really just pulled me back to help them with the marketing. And it was an interesting experience going back to the models and to modeling and seeing how much has changed. RJ was talking about all these new influences about making your models pop and storytelling and object source lighting and influencers like maybe I would mention L and other guys who have a very different approach to how they present their models. And on my end, it's really all about just going back to the roots. I discovered scale modeling when I was younger and found it was fun. It was great being able to make models of the things that he saw in movies and the things that he saw on TV. It's not very different nowadays. My recent stash is so full of Star Wars stuff still. And then mixing that with learning new techniques and learning the new ways of doing things, and also really just finding out what is new. Back in the day, we didn't have 3D printed parts that we could use to enhance stuff. We had to get resin products that are hard to come by, especially in our part of the world. Now it's the other way around. I think we're getting a lot of stuff in Asia now that aren't readily available in the West. So it's always, at the end of it all, it's always about having fun while you increase your skill. I mean, you won't know if your skill or your expertise is good enough unless you try to compete. And in the process, when you compete, you meet all these other people. You see them in person. Nowadays, people are complaining, or they're worried about the amount of screen time that everybody spends. Being able to spend actual real life time with people and persons and finding out their technique and finding out their lives and how they come up with the models that they do. It's really, really valuable. So, yeah.
See, that's the exact reason why we've gone for an audio-only podcast rather than having visual. So when you're actually sat at the modelling bench, you've got company. You've got people talking about the hobby. And doing that, you can carry on modelling rather than being distracted by actually looking at the screen. He says that although one of our team does actually have a very successful YouTube channel with Mac models, but it's a case of not losing contact with what you're doing, but feeling that you're actually part of a global community. At the moment, our show is downloaded regularly in 75 countries worldwide. So the message is getting out there far and wide that you're not alone. We've all got a story to tell. And although we haven't finished the conversation yet, what we'd like you to do is, after your show, is come back on. But also, if you can entice your president of IPMS to come on with you and talk about the branch and the actual organization as well. Because there are people that's probably listening to this that may not actually be a member of IPMS Philippines. They may not even know that you exist. We're finding that in the UK, there's people that are actually within a few miles of a branch and finding, I didn't know you were there. So, yes. Anyway, let's get back to the questions. PSMS 2026 is obviously onto the second floor area that you mentioned earlier. What does that expansion allow you to do this year that you couldn't do before?
Well, one of the constant problems that we have to tackle is the space. We have a lot of interest in an expansion of vendors. For one, there's a lot of people who want to sell more of their stuff during the show. We also have a lot of requests for more tabletop gaming groups, as well as other kinds of hobbies that are a bit of a tangent to the show. So this year, one of the things that we're actually looking at, this is in no way finalized yet, is having diecast group also present in the space. That's also a big segment of the hobby, a little bit of a tangent as it's not plastic, but we're happy to also spotlight groups like that.
It's still scale modeling. That's the key point.
It's still scale modeling. And aside from that, I think last year some of our major sponsors are actually RC shops that want to have a space to demonstrate different RCs that they sell. Probably not the planes, just more of the cars and the 4x4s. But yeah, all of these aspects of miniature world. I do not know if we have an active model railroad group in the Philippines. Maybe they find out, maybe they get interested to participate as well. But yeah, we're looking to get a lot more activities lined up, especially all those workshops. Right now they occupy parts of the stage. That's where they put it. But we may expand that to that second floor area as well.
Okay. You've seen participants from Taiwan, Southeast Asia, and even Slovenia.
Mm-hmm.
Are you actively positioning PSMS as a serious international show now? And have any overseas participants indicated they're going to be taking part this year?
Yeah, of course, we really want to be known as one of the biggest or most exciting, at least, model shows in the region. We have had the commitments from the Taiwan group as well. They're really the ones that support us quite a bit. But the wins from Team Thailand last year, for example, has also got interested, and a few of them have committed to coming back. We're inviting some of the previous winners as judges as well in their respective categories. We've also have our regulars such as BNL Models, who is a 3D printed aftermarket manufacturer from Vietnam, who always comes in. We have Siam Decals from Thailand who will come in for the third straight year. And I think we have at least one judge I believe she's from Poland, that will come in to be a judge in figures category. So far, that's what we're hearing in terms of international. So we're getting there where we have the regional attention of the Southeast Asian region and Taiwan. We are slowly getting the attention participants from Europe, and hopefully we'll get someone from the UK, with someone from the Americas. More participants will be great, and they could come to the show and maybe just have a good time afterwards.
That sounds really inviting. So if someone flies into PSMS 2026, what's the one thing they'll walk away talking about?
How much fun it is.
Brilliant.
It's still people who will visit like Western Europe or any part of the world, is they'll bring back to their home countries they'll see the level of the modeling community in the Philippines. That's one thing that we want for people to come out with, that, hey, there's a bunch of good modelers in the Philippines, or you're unique modelers in the Philippines. Maybe apart from participating in the shows, they make it as a holiday. That's just to join the competition, but have the overall Philippine experience. The beach, the food, the restaurant, the scenery. It's a whole total package that we also want them to come out. Not just the modeling side, but get to know Filipinos in the country, not just stuff that they see on the news. Very, very generalized.
Yeah, fully get you. The show is July 30th to August the 2nd, Alea Malls, Manila Bay. Where can modelers find out more information?
Oh, they could visit. Give me a moment before just to get this right.
You're the publicity officer and you don't know the web address.
Yeah. Yeah. You could visit philippines-scale-model-show.com for that. And they could also search for the Philippine Scale Model Show Facebook page, because that's where our main presence would be. And that's where we make our biggest announcements. And they could also look at all the videos we have for the previous shows and just see what's in there. It's pretty hard to describe in words, but it's a really great atmosphere. It's really fun. There's a lot of people of all ages that come there and see the models, not just the modelers, whole families. It's totally fun for everyone.
Fantastic. Okay, John, RJ, thank you very much for joining us. And honestly, hearing how PSMS has grown in such a short time and the passion behind it, it's clear this isn't just another model show. It really is becoming an international destination for modelers. So, the Philippine Scale Model Show returns to Alea Malls, Manila Bay from July 30th to August the 2nd. And whether you're local, traveling from across Asia, or even considering making the journey from further afield, it sounds like it's an event packed with inspiration, community, and serious modelling energy. We'll include all the links to the show in the show notes, and so you can find out more updates and then start planning for your visit. And who knows, maybe we'll see some of you Benchmates there next time.
Thank you so much for having us, and we hope to see everyone here in our show.
You've actually given me the inspiration to think about making plans to actually come in the future. Sounds exciting.
We'll be happy to have you.
Fantastic. We'd like you to both come back on, and also if you can grab the president of IPMS. Okay, guys, thank you very much for your time, and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Beyond the Box Art is brought to you by Ammo by Mig Jimenez, Fish Cob Model Company, Guideline Publications, Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, and the Scale Modelers Supply. And now, our featured interview. Conversations with the people shaping the hobby, from individual modelers to leading manufacturers, exploring every aspect of scale modeling together.
So in this episode, we're diving into something that always gets modelers talking. New manufacturers who aren't just releasing kits, but genuinely pushing research, accuracy, and subject choice in exciting new directions. Joining us, we have DB Model Kits, also known as DBMK, a UK-based manufacturer that's quickly building a reputation for tackling aircraft subjects that many thought might never happen. All backed by serious research, modern design techniques, and a clear passion for getting the details right. From embracing LiDAR scanning and primary source data to bringing lesson-served aircraft to life in scale, DBMK are carving out a very distinctive space in the hobby. And it's one that's caught the attention of modelers worldwide. So we're delighted to welcome Will Packard, the drive behind the vision and direction behind DBMK, to join us on this episode. So, Will, good evening. Welcome. Hope you're well.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you very much. Looking forward to this, and thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure, and hopefully you'll be saying that when we're finished with you as well. Okay, so question number one then. DBMK consistently chooses subjects other manufacturers overlook. Are you actively looking for aircraft that feel underserved, or does it come down to personal passion first?
It's a combination of the two. And I mean, the reason we started DBMK, and I'm sadly, my business partner, Ilya Sobolev, can't make it tonight. The reason we started it was because there was no decent kit of a scimitar either around or on the horizon. And finally, someone said, well, put up or shut up, and off you go. And I took that as a sufficient kick up the backside to go and do something about it. And so it all kind of started from there. And in terms of the subjects, yes, it's great to be able to do a subject where there's a bit of white space, where no one else is doing it. But actually, what we found is once you start LiDAR scanning and comparing kits that up to now people think are quite good, you find that actually you can make improvements. And also, the state of the art's moved on. Now, maybe think about it. It's hard to believe that the Airfix 48 scale Mark 24 and Mark 47 Spitfires came out 30 years ago this year. And, technology's moved on, molding technology's moved on, 3D printing's moved on. And so there's nothing really stopping us looking at kits that have already been covered, but maybe not up to modern standards.
Okay, you said you've been working on the Scimitar. Obviously, you've got the Hornet just about to hit the shelves. You've got the Sea Fury hopefully very shortly behind it. Where are we with the Scimitar?
Well, the Scimitar is very close. We're recording this on the 24th of February, which is 4 years to the day that Ukraine was invaded by Russia. And that very much pushed everything sideways. We planned to start off with the Scimitar, but unfortunately, just the dislocation due to the designers and initially the production being in Ukraine meant that I think he's on his third designer now, and that's caused a certain amount of dislocation. Having said that, we're pushing hard now to finish the CAD model, both in 48 and 72nd scale. And ideally, we'll be able to get this out by the end of the year. That's the plan.
Okay, I saw something online very recently you published reference the intakes, and you're taking a slightly different approach to how you're producing them.
Yes. So what I think 3D printing's now got to the stage, both in terms of the finish it can deliver, but at the right price point. That means that actually we can do things with 3D printing now, that we can do single piece intake tunnels, that sort of thing, without ending up with a kit that's prohibitively expensive. And we're anticipating that we'll be able to bring the Scimitar in somewhere under the Airfix Buccaneer in terms of the price in 48 scale. And it's going to have quite a lot of 3D printed parts in it. There are various bits that are very difficult to capture on the Scimitar. In many ways, of all the models we're designing at the moment, or about to release, it's actually by far and away the hardest to capture the shape of it. There are just lots of compound curves, intakes that require proper depth really on all the way around the fuselage. And so being able to use 3D printing, avoiding having to worry about undercuts, draft angles, part thicknesses, has meant that it gives us the freedom really to capture the shape very, very well. And one of the things we've done recently is model the air-to-air refueling drogue or basket from the air-to-air refueling pod that it carried in its kind of later life. And you really can't do that in plastic and make it look realistic. So we've gone for a 3D printed part for that. And it's worth saying we haven't actually designed it in CAD, we've designed it in Blender so that you get that kind of like that analog texture, just like the real thing.
Okay. Well, that leads nicely on to a question from John.
I know you guys have embraced LiDAR scanning and also primary source research, but has there ever been a moment where the hard data has contradicted decades of what you might call accepted modelling wisdom?
Oh, we had a close run thing. So we scanned a Spitfire 14, a Pima, and we noted that it had a 4-degree nose down. The thrust line was 4 degrees below the centre line. And accepted wisdom was that the Griffon Spitfires had a thrust line 2 degrees below the datum. And this took a bit of a time to resolve. I had to speak to another ex-army officer who runs the Rolls-Royce historic flight, who confirmed it was actually 2 degrees. They'd got a PR-19, and I don't think he actually went to measure it, but he sent me some very good drawings on it. And then we sent a photo of the Spitfire at Pima with its cowlings off, with its scaffolding engine, basically scaffolding poles holding the prop in the right place, 4 degrees down. So you have to be careful. I mean, LiDAR scanning's not magic. I know you've had Luke Saney Hewitt from Revell on here. You've got to, it's a very, very good starting point. It speeds up the design process because you can very quickly capture the shape and get that rendered into a CAD model as a skin. It allows you to check the work as you go along. So we'll frequently get the designers to say, right, okay, overlay the CAD and the scan just to make sure they're aligned. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, someone challenged the Scimitar CAD, which I'm more than happy to. I was like, we want to get it right. And if someone spots something, we want to capture that. And it was like, right, okay, this angle, let's just overlay the CAD on the scan. And it absolutely matched it, which gives me the confidence I posted the picture on Facebook to give us that level of certainty. I think really the problem comes in generally the outside dimensions of an aircraft, the wingspan, the length of the fuselage. And if a mistake is made in one part of the airframe, inevitably it translates to a mistake in the other part of the airframe because the full dimensions of it. And so what you sometimes see is if Some mistakes people just don't catch. Others are more obvious. If you look at the monogram F105, for example, you can watch how designers started off and he's got one thing wrong. And then he started to correct the tooling to try and make it look like a Thunder Chief. And in the end, you end up with the wings being a different scale to the fuselage, being a different scale to various other elements of it. Now, that's a reasonably old kit. But without that ability to really capture the shape, the complex shape of something like an F105, it's really challenging to make a model from it, from basically two-dimensional plans.
Okay, quick question from me. You've got the scimitar at the Fleet Air Museum at Yeovilton. Did you scan that and the machine at Solent Wings, or just the one aircraft? If you got an opportunity to scan more than one to do a comparison side by side, would you actually do that, or do you just go for the one subject?
It all depends. So we scanned the scimitar at Solent Sky, which is residing in a very nice manor house near Romsey at the moment. And the scimitar is a big, heavy, thick-skinned aircraft, and that one's had its wings off, but it's still got its engines in, which is actually quite unusual for a museum aircraft. And so we feel we captured the shape adequately. We know things like, for example, the wings got zero dihedral on it, so there are controls around that, and we're happy with the shape. We would have liked to have scanned the one at the Fleet Air Museum, but it's just very difficult. They're not really that keen on it, and it was quite a challenge to see if we could do it there, and the answer was basically no. We have done some photogrammetry there, which is essentially using lots and lots of photographs and then combining them to come up with effectively something that approximates a scan of things like the air-to-air refueling pod. And we did get someone to get access to the cockpit, which was very convenient. And when you're looking at things like the combing under the windscreen, which is actually really hard to see in most photographs because of the reflection. So the more information you have, the better, to be honest with you. But we've scanned multiple Spitfires. I think we're on to our fourth or fifth Spitfire now. We've scanned some of the other subjects, we scan multiples of. And sometimes you find things on the real thing that you're not expecting. So we scanned a flyable Mustang in the US, and it was very clear once you actually looked at the scan, the tail was twisted by 1 degree. And that's, at some point, it had been hit or distorted or something like that. And it was a flyable one. So people flying it would have literally, the tail canted over the horizontal and vertical surfaces by about 1 degree. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, but you just have to be really careful. You have to cross-check and look at wartime photographs and really be careful and really understand the subject that you're scanning.
Okay. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, it does. It's quite interesting. The Hornet is a real favourite of mine, and I'm really, really pleased to see on the new kit, which we've got the next issue of Sam, he said, plugging the magazine. But you've got the windscreen right, you've got the slightly raised inner wing surfaces inboard of the nacelles, you've got all that, you've got the undercarriage in the right place and the right thing. It's just really nice to see the research that's gone into getting the Hornet looking like a Hornet. And yeah, carry on, please.
Oh, that's really good of you to say. The Hornet was really quite, well, in many ways it was easy, but in many ways it's a challenge. It's the only aircraft that doesn't exist that will actually do a kit of. We were very lucky. We purchased the rights to use Arthur Bentley's excellent CAD model, but he's been spending sort of 30 years on and off. So we really made sure that we got lots of factory drawings as well. We were also helped enormously by David Collins, who has built the one-to-one cockpit version. He's a lovely man, and he's been unbelievably helpful. But you also realize that without one to measure, without one to really see, you do get a lot of things like the tailplane span, where in every book it's wrong. And we could see it was wrong because we had some of the factory drawings, but not all of them. But we put it together with some of the factory drawings. David's got the mass balance, which is the tip of a tailplane on an F3 in a real one. So we photographed that from literally 90 degrees. And we then, working back, we could work out there were 2 fixed widths and then 3 different styles of elevator. And you've just got to make sure you pick the right one. But that's and David didn't even know. So that was kind of proper primary source research we were doing, which is great fun, slightly scary at times, but great fun. One of the things that I'm very pleased you like the windscreen. One of the things that we've done on that is the windscreen construction itself on the Hornet is just basically 3 triangles of glass with a metal bracket at the top and a metal bracket at the back. They're laid together, and there are 2 long screw threads between the triangular panels, and effectively all you do is you put the metal bit roughly in place, you put the glass on the top, then you tighten the screws, and there's this line of black Bostik sealant. So there's no canopy frame between the glass elements of the windscreen, but there is a layer of Bostik. So if you feel, when you get the kit, you'll feel that there's a panel line. We put it in on the windscreen so you could run an ink wash down it to simulate the Bostik. So that was the, we probably went slightly mad on it, but it's like we really wanted to. The Hornet is one of my favorite aircraft. I've waited 40 years since building the Frog one in 1982 for a decent one. So it's like I'm not gonna mess it up.
You'll get no complaints from me on that.
I hope you enjoy it. I built the first one over Christmas and I just couldn't stop smiling. Actually, it was just, it's a limited run kit, so it's a bit challenging. In many ways, it would kind of click into place and then you fight, and then all of a sudden it'd be clicking, it's in place perfectly. You do have to worry about watch the mating surfaces, but that's like anything else that's limited run. But the advantage is once it's finished, it actually is accurate. So it's not like you've fought this kit and it's not accurate. It took me probably about 7 or 8 hours to build a thing complete. But once it's together, it really does look the part. And it's very solid as well. It's very heavy.
Fantastic. Okay then, Nevs.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So I've got a question for you about accuracy versus enjoyment. So where does DBMK draw the line between recreating absolute accuracy in, like you say, when you're doing the LiDAR scanning, but then creating a model that's genuinely enjoyable to build and pertaining to that? Have you ever had to walk back detail because it makes the build worse?
So that's a really good question. The way I would look at it is I don't think you actually have to, they're not necessarily, if you think about it and you're careful in the design, they're not naturally opposed. So it's not like both two ends of the spectrum, you've got to kind of play in the middle. You can get both to align. So DBMK's motto is accuracy is a priority, but our design principles are accuracy followed by buildability. So we want to take what we've seen in as best practice in modern model kit design and actually take that to the next level. So one of the things a Hornet's got, for example, is I think it's an 8-part spar, and it's literally the whole width of the wing, and it locks into the nacelles. It means that it's extremely solid. The other thing is that injection molding imposes real limitations. And this is, I think, where your question about the buildability is. Things like draft angles, undercuts, part thicknesses, are really limiting. Once you actually get into the design of the kit, then you realize, now I understand why they put that wing in a certain way, or that part was like that. The 3D printing allows us to basically just avoid those problems head on. So one of the things that you're going to see on the Spitfires going forward is that the fuselage effectively has inserts on the inside of it, and you'll put 3D printed skins to the cockpit on there, so you can get all the levers as proper levers. You can put the pipework in. You can put the pipes as pipes down to 0.25 millimeter, which is really quite fine. And it's a case of sticking it in. There's positive location. My designers are very bored of me endlessly going about positive location, but we want to make things buildable. And the motto behind it, one of our design philosophies is we want the modeler to be able to build at the next level up than his or her skill. So we want our models, we want to flatter our kits, we want to flatter the modeler so that you really can get a really good finish that's really above your level of skill, whatever skill that level that is.
Okay, that's really interesting. And one of the things you touched on in the last question as well is that DBMK, it's not taking that perceived wisdom for granted. And would you say that you and the company are exercising in everything you do like a healthy skepticism towards everything that's come before?
Absolutely. So, by background, I did aeronautical engineering at university. So I've got a reasonable idea of what shapes, how aircraft fly, how to do design problems. My day job is I'm a management consultant at one of the big management consultancies in London, looking after financial services firms. Yeah, I know where I want to get to. We know where we want to get to. And if the established route doesn't get us there, then we'll try something else. And we're trying, when you look at the Sea Fury, one of the things we've done is come up with what we call sprue runners. And we've seen how when you get, say, a resin detail set, often you have a block with 10 parts on it. And it's actually quite easy to paint, get rid of seam lines, and then saw them off at the end. So we thought, why don't do that in injection molded plastic? So you'll see that on the Sea Fury. The Sea Fury doesn't have any 3D printed parts. We're probably going to move that work. That works actually really quite well. We may use it again. We may not. But we'll, with the 3D printing, we'll see how that works as well. And we're also really keen to hear modelers. We don't want something that builds itself in a way. We want something that is a rewarding experience without being a frustrating one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And without being too tangential, like people like Boulders and I were naval modelers, and we perhaps get so much of that perceived wisdom, don't we, Boulders, in terms of whether it's Yamato, Bismarck, whatever, we just assume that it is the way the kit's going to recreate it, whereas the approach you're taking is actually, no, let's go back. And I really did find it interesting what you said about the P51 and the 1 degree out. You're taking that accuracy to the point where real life subjects are no longer as accurate as they ought to have been.
Yeah. The next challenge that I really want to crack is surface detailing. And this is something I've been thinking about for a long time in terms of how you do it. If you think back to some of those Revell 32nd scale kits from the late 60s, the Spitfire 1, they got great surface detail, really accurate lap panels, raised rivets, that sort of thing in the right spot. And it's like, how do we do that? So you've got to kind of study the subject. I live just outside Canterbury, very close to the Manston Spitfire Museum, and Rob there's been fantastic in letting me have access to their Mark 16 they've got there, it's a great little museum. It's well worth a visit if you're in the area. But he's let me measure, for example, what's the lap when the panels are lapped. So one panel is attached to the other with a single row of rivets. How far does the panel that sticks out? How far is that? After it's 1.5 millimeters. And you look at it and you study the subject and you see that, for example, a lot of the hatches don't fit well. Sometimes you've got a curved surface and the hatch or the plate is actually flat. So that's part of the thing that your eye picks up, not actually maybe consciously, but when you look at a real aircraft and go, actually, it's got lots of little imperfections. The problem with models is they're driven from CAD programs or from mathematically perfect curves. So you just don't get that. And it just looks like it's almost like a three-dimensional CAD model, physical CAD model. And we're keen to have the lap panels. When you look at the Sea Fury, for example, it's got raised and recessed rivets because that's what the real thing's like. And we're looking at how you flex panels to make them realistically look like they're slightly bent. So things like the fillets around wing roots are notorious to get damaged because people stand on them when they're getting out of the cockpit or slide their foot on them. So you generally see a bit more variation there. A wing on the ground typically is from the top surface is in tension rather than compression as it is in the air. So when it's in tension, it flattens out. So you can see, if you look at a photograph of a Spitfire flying or maneuvering, you'll see that the upper wing surface actually looks different to how it looks on the ground. So we're trying to, it's very easy to kind of disappear up your own firmament if you're not careful on the detail stuff. But we want to kind of explore the ways of doing it.
That's great. Thank you for that one.
And you look at subjects like the Hornet and one of my favourite fleet arm aircraft, the Sea Fury. Do you sometimes wonder why it took so long for somebody to tackle them at this level? And what were the hidden challenges?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's like, I've wanted to see Fury. I saw the first one at Duxford, I think 1982. It turned around, came up, stopped right in front of where I was standing, my mother, and cut its engine. I just thought, wow, that's really very impressive. I don't really understand why no one's done it. If you think the Airfix kit, I mean, you had the Hobbycraft kit, which I think 1989, that was pretty good. The Airfix kits from 20 years later, yeah, that's okay as well. The Fisher Models one, which I used to have, Paul did a lovely job with that, and it's a real work of art, but it's resin and it's difficult to work with at times. And so I don't really know why some kits just don't get done. The Scimitar I can kind of understand. There's two color schemes, of which only one aircraft wore the non-grey and white one. When we look at it, I've got a long list of subjects. We've got over 100 LiDAR scans we've got in the back. And you look down that list and it's just like, why not? I mean, if you think of other subjects, Griffin Spitfire in 32nd scale, for Griffin Spitfire is an awesome looking aircraft. The more you look at it, the more you realize that it is the best looking Spitfire. I may be biased now. I've really got into the Mark 21. I had no interest in that before. But you look at the design and think, actually, flew in the second one, but actually, that's pretty cool. But no one's done that. 48 scale, I think over 70-second scale kit, but it's limited run, nothing in 30-second scale. I built the Matchbox 30-second scale Mark 24 in 1981. And yeah, that's great. It was great for 1981, less so now. And there are loads of, how should I say, aircraft that just haven't been done. So the key number or the key metric that you have to consider as a model company is in terms of if you want to do interesting subjects, you don't want to just bang out Spitfires and Mustangs, is your break-even number. And that's the single metric that you have to manage. Now, if you can bring that number down below 2,000, then all of a sudden you can start doing some really funky things that people just wouldn't think of. I'm going to sell 5,000 or 10,000 Belvederes, for example, but I might sell 1,800 or 2,000. Particularly if it's a great kit of an interesting subject, you put some cracking box art on it, and it's a little bit like Wing Nut Wings. You try and create your own market, but that break-even number, that's the thing that actually allows you to go off the beaten path and take a risk that otherwise you probably wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to the Mark 21, there was an Aero Club conversion for the 22-24, which, believe it or not, I actually have in the stash.
Oh, fantastic.
And it came in the kit I didn't even know. When I bought it, I paid 20 quid for it off an auction site, and it came, and there was the conversion.
Is that the one you wouldn't swap with me?
Yeah, that's the one I wouldn't swap. And it's the only 21 I know in 48 scale is the old Aero Club.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the Hasegawa Spitfire you had to...
No, Airfix 24. Airfix 22-24 because you needed the wings.
Yeah.
I built a 72nd scale Contra Prop 21, which was Special Hobby, I think, it was a great little kit. The only thing that didn't fit on it was the cockpit, the actual canopies, and it was terrible. But the rest of it was okay. Went together well.
Yeah, I built that Aero Club conversion. If you bought the Seafire, you could use the spare Mark 46 wings, the non-folding wings for it.
Yeah.
And actually, scale aircraft modelling, funnily enough, years and years ago, had a sheet of 148 scale decals for post-war RAF Spitfires, which I think was meant to go in a magazine, but never did. And they sold them off at probably one of the IPMS Model World shows. And that had Mark 21 markings on it, I think, for, was it one squadron JX codes? Something like that. I remember you used those.
Yeah, there was one squadron. The one I wanted to do was 41 Squadron because they actually raced it at Blackpool Air Races.
I think that's the one I did.
Back in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the silver one with the red bars?
Red stripes, I think, was on it. Go Faster stripes.
So at the moment, we 3D printed. Basically, we're finished with the Mark 21. So to test it, we're 3D printing it and building it. We're going to take it all the way through and paint it in those markings. So that's already underway. So that's probably a couple of weeks away. No more than that.
You tease. When you've actually taken the test shots, can you please share them with us so we can actually put them on socials?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We will absolutely do that with you. It's coming together very well.
Going back to your scimitar, what else was available in 48? Or I'm sure there was another one. There was another one, wasn't there?
So yeah, there's a range of them. So there were two contract. There was a Nimbus vac form and a Contrail vac form from the mid-80s.
I remember the Contrail. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Then there's Dynavector with Tarot in the mid-90s. It's a nice kit. There was, I think, a Spanish or Portuguese manufacturer did a resin one about 5 years ago as well. The problem is there are no good plans of a scimitar. Partly it's the compound shape of it and the way it sits. So most pictures have it with a small degree of anhedral. So the wings kind of slope down slightly. That's not accurate. The wings are completely flat. It's 0 degrees anhedral. And you can really only capture it with a scan. It is a very complicated shape, in partly because it started off with straight wings, a butterfly tail and no undercarriage. So they then had to move stuff around. So one of the last things, or the penultimate thing we researched was where the engines are in it so that you can do both the jet pipes and the air intakes. And the engines they slope up and they slope inwards as well as you go from back to front. And that was to basically lift them over the undercarriage base because they had to insert them after the design was done. Absolutely crazy. But when you look up the intakes, you actually look up to look at the engines.
Will, what's the most frustrating research problem you've encountered, and something that nearly stalled a project because the info just simply didn't exist. Could be paint colours.
It's not paint colours. Although the Hawker buff, we've got a view on what that colour should be, and we can leave that to one side. I'm just thinking I can tell you because of the subject. To be honest with you, the way we like to operate is we have an expert panel. So we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 experts who have really good knowledge of the airframe to ask specific questions about, should this panel line be here? Should this intake be there on this particular version? But also to proof the CAD. And they're so literally going through it and saying, have we got a problem here? Does this actually look like a Sea Fury or a Spitfire or something else that we're busy designing at the moment? And you find out a lot along the way. For example, the Scimitar had 2 different lengths of the tail hook, 2 different spans of tailplane. No one has seen this stuff. We're literally going through factory drawings, we're going through the pilot's notes, we're going through modification states and the user manuals and everything like that. And you find that things are much less, this mark look like this mark look like that. In fact, it's a whole blend of stuff as you go through it. So yeah, we've been really helped by our expert panel, but also is very much as a coalition of the willing. We've had individuals who've volunteered their time to go and scan and do photogrammetry. We've been lent scans, or people have scanned stuff for us, and we scan when we were at some particular museum. We scan for them when we've been at other museums. It really is a kind of coalition of the willing to help out. To be honest, in many ways, that's the biggest surprise, is that nothing has really stumped us. Even the Scimitar intakes, we understand that, for example, the RF Museum at Hendon has got about 50,000 supermarine drawings. So we were going to we hadn't sorted the problem before that, and it would have been a trip to the RF Museum and go through their archives to see if we could get some drawings of the aircraft. But actually, we found it was on our own LiDAR scan. You could just see the fronts of the engines, and that allowed us to situate them perfectly.
That's fantastic. The Scimitar, I'm very interested in, because I had the original Dynavector kit, but not being away with trimming your own parts to that extent now. It's like mega flash, isn't it, in my book?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one where I can't wait until your kit comes out, actually.
Well, I mean, neither can I. It's been so long. And I tell you, we were so excited. So it's really the first thing. It was because we didn't scan the Scimitar ourselves. We paid someone to scan it for us, which got a lot of money. And that was the first kind of like material investment in DBMK. So Ilya, myself, and a mate of mine who was just leaving the Royal Navy and leaving Fleet Air Arm, we convened at Romsey on a bitterly cold day, but it was still, and it's perfect, still no rain, it was perfect scanning conditions in late November 2021. And away we went and never really looked back since then. We've done a lot of scanning ourselves in the meantime. Went out to Pima 3 years ago, exactly 3 years ago. Today, I think we were out there and we scanned sort of 60 airframes while we were there.
No, that sounds brilliant, Dan. Right. There's a question from Dan.
Hi, Will. Great to have you on. You touched on this with Nev's question regarding philosophy and stuff, but I just wonder if someone was to build their first DBMK kit and instantly gets what makes you different, what design choice or philosophy do you hope they notice first?
But we try and flatter them. We try and make it easy for them to come up with a model of really good standard. So the front of the Sea Fury fuselage is basically a tube. It's not, doesn't taper. It's very hard. You can't really mold it. Even slide molding is really challenging. So we've had to put join lines in where there are no panel lines. So fully accepting that when the modeler gets rid of the join line, they will destroy any rivets around it, or certainly, damage them. We thought that one of the things that I find really difficult is if you've got really fine rivets, it's actually really hard to reinstate them if you damage them in one part of the panel, but you've got to reinstate them to the other. So I thought, right, well, what should we do? I know what we'll do. We won't put any rivets in that particular panel, but except for 2, one at either side, so that they basically, you can then line your bit of tape between those 2 rivets and then run your riveter across it, making it so we acknowledge the fact that, you're going to you have to join it's not on a power line. And that, in many ways, actually, it's easier joining not on a power line. But we're going to make it easier for you to reinstate the rivets afterwards and do a really good job by fixing them, because often that's the hard part.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Have you done an instruction for that in the instructions as well?
Yeah.
Fantastic. That is brilliant.
And it's like
that is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, that's great. Been at this, I've been making models 50 years this year. And it's like I want to apply some of what I've found frustrating and fix it. I mean, the boss stick in the windscreen of the Hornet.
Yeah.
The designer thought I was Matt. We all thought I was basically certifiable. It's good.
I think there's a bit of a philosophy going around at the moment. And some people say, oh, no, it's rubbish. But I'm fully signed up to it, that life's too short for crappy kits, as they say. And I think you and Mark at Qatari and other companies are more heading towards this sort of experience in a box for your money, so to speak. And I think that is fantastic. You want to feel appreciated as a modeler for buying your product, as we do as modelers on your behalf as well.
Yeah, that was very kind of you to say that. I've had a long chats, plural, with Mark at Qatar. We helped them out. We scanned a BF109 for them at Hendon, and it's very much, he's a great, he's running a great company. They do great things. I've got lots of Spitfires. I don't generally build Axis stuff, so no BF109s, but the Define is made me extremely happy. P47 and likewise, Hurricane likewise, Halifax likewise, and we're very much aligned, to the point that we're having a very good catch up on the Friday night before Telford last year. And we realized that we are so aligned. We started talking about J-class destroyers, and would it be nice to have a 70-second status of one of those? At which point you're kind of like, you realize that, right, okay, fine. But no, he's doing great work, and I love it.
Yeah, you're on that wavelength of offering a premium product, which people really appreciate.
Yeah.
And so what else have you scanned for him?
He did ask if we'd scanned the Defiant, but we haven't. He scanned it subsequently, but we are going to go up to Cosford later on this year, but it just didn't work out time-wise for him.
Brilliant. Thank you, Will.
Are there any J-class destroyers left anywhere?
No. There's a C-class at Chatham, but no J-class, definitely. But anyway, so that's a long-term project.
Please hurry up.
Well, we're thinking, how do you do it? So it is 1.25 meters long in 70-second scale. And we're kind of like thinking, how would you do it? One of the things is like you want 3D printing to get the accuracy and the finish, but then you've got things like thermal expansion coefficients different from void of view using that as a background. So we haven't quite got to the point as to how to build something on that size and 3D print it for a reasonable price. But yeah, we're definitely in that kind of like, at some point we will get around to doing it.
What about 1 in 144?
Too small. Be nice, but it would still, I've got the Flower class Corvette, and it's like, yeah, that would do nicely. J class in that scale. So, but anyway, and I've accidentally dropped the release we're about to push out. We're not going to push it out. But actually, it's kind of in many ways the archetypal British Second World War destroyer.
The podcast has reverted to type on talking about naval subjects again.
A series of engines would be really good. Something you could go crazy on.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I love it.
1/24.
I love aero engines, maybe even bigger than that, to be honest with you. Like with like a 1/12 Merlin, or maybe even something that size. 1/12 scale. I know when the R2800 would be quite good. Merlin, Griffin, Sabre, things like that, Centaurus, it's all doable. But yeah, we will play around. We're not just going to say, right, we're going to be strictly aircraft or whatever. There's lots of things we want to do.
Or with the announcement of a 1/35th scale Messerschmitt 323 Gigant this afternoon, the size seems to be no object. Same day we get a 1/48th Avro Vulcan announced as well, coming out in 2027. And you just think, A, is there enough plastic left in the world to actually produce something like this? B, where the hell are you going to put it? And C, how much are you going to spend in aftermarket on something of that size?
Totally.
It's just ridiculous. Anyway.
Will, this actually goes back to when you were talking a little bit about the Spitfire, the 21, and also about the Scimitar engine intakes. This kind of hybrid tooling that we're seeing a lot more of nowadays, with 3D printing kind of as inserts or as the difficult bits. We're also seeing a lot of what you might call boutique manufacturers, I guess. I mean, people like Halberd who are kind of doing a lot of esoteric things. Do you think we are entering, to use that terrible hackneyed old phrase, the golden age of niche subjects? Or
Do you think there's a danger that what might happen is the market will become quite fragmented and splintered because everyone's making their own little kind of like wish list? And you were saying about your break-even point is 2,000 kits. Everyone's hoping they're going to sell 2,000, but actually it's all going to come down like a house of cards if we're not careful.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. I think one of the things I'm really interested to do is actually find out how big the global modeling market is. You find there are some curious anomalies in subjects. So, for example, Imager has a cult following in Germany and Japan. I have no idea why, but it does. And so you get all kinds of people asking for it from Germany, and it's apparently exceptionally popular in Japan. So I'm very curious to find out what is the global market for scale model aircraft. Information is limited on China, for example. We understand that the Chinese market is heavily gunned down, similar to Japan actually, which is great. It's good that people are making things rather than sort of stand in front of computer games. And whether Gundam is almost like in time, people will go through that and start branching out into looking at other areas or elements within modeling. It would be nice to think that. But at the end of the day, there are over 7 billion people on the planet. And we're very keen to try and find out what the market is and what it can support. We were kind of bumped into announcing our Seahawk in 32nd scale, which we're not planning to release for another couple of years. That will come with the box art will be an Indian Seahawk in the 1971 Indo-Pakistan War shooting up an airfield in what's now Bangladesh. Because I'm just curious to know, you see very, very few modelers from India, but it's a big country. And I'm very curious to see if we can maybe tap into that with having headlining with an Indian subject on the box.
Yeah, it's a very interesting reply. I mean, I kind of think you see a lot of manufacturers release kits with certain marking options in, which are obviously, I mean, Hasegawa are the classic with this, when they get a Messerschmitt 109E and literally as a Swiss one comes out, and then they'll do the G with a Bulgarian one and a Romanian one. And I always kind of felt that was quite a clever idea because you're getting a lot of value for money out of the same set of molds with relatively inexpensive box art and new decals. Do you think that you guys would go down the route of kind of, I think have you got a Dutch and an Australian and a Fleet Air Arm marking option in the Sea Fury?
Yeah, and a Canadian one as well.
And a Canadian one, sorry. Do you think you'd go down the route of maybe doing a couple of different boxings, like Bay of Pigs, Cuban one and things like that? Must increase sales in different markets by appealing to different nationalities and regions.
That's something we've toyed with. My view on it is we want to really deliver really value to the model. So we want to put multiple schemes in the box. So we will, for the center, we'll probably put all the squadrons in one box. We may well then have a subsequent boxing for special weapons or special stores, which will be the Buddy refueling tanker and the Red Beard bomb, both of which we've been able to get photogrammetry of. And so you're doing that. But the way we look at it is the models are really designed for modelers, not for collectors. And the kits are a Hasegawa BF 109s, what about 20 quid, something like that. We're not, the Sea Furies, the 32nd scale kits is quite a bit more than that. So we don't anticipate that people would be really in a position to buy 8, 9, 10, something like that. I've got quite a good anecdote about that. They have the Hasegawa strategy. So we see if there are different versions, we'll do different boxings. So the Hornet is an F3 boxing, and then there's going to be a PR2 F1 boxing as well, because they're different parts. It means we don't need as many sprues. So we were going to do both in the same box, and that allows us to bring the cost of the kit down slightly. But because they're genuinely different parts, we thought they're generally different boxings. So yeah, one time I was in the queue for the kit swap at Telford, the much missed kit swap at Telford. And I was on my own, and I was chatting to the chap next to me, which I always do, because it's always curious that you find out what other people are interested in. So I said, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "I'm looking for a Hasegawa Mitsubishi Zero 48 scale." So really, I thought, why is it bothering to look for that? I think you can just get them everywhere. And he says, "Yeah, well, I've got 58 boxings of it, and I'm after this particular one that's a 59. And then literally, in all seriousness, there are like 70 boxings of it or something like that. It's insane. But it is collectors. It's got beautiful artwork on the cover, everything like that. I don't think that we're going to be playing in that space. We want to give value to the modeler, to be honest with you. We want to give pretty much all the schemes. Although we're going to do two boxings. I say that we're going to do two boxings, the F11F, and one of the boxings is the same airframe, but in all the different markings it flew in its life.
Oh, that's cool. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea, it really is. And I think people will really like that because you'll see the progression then from your squadron to training to test, aircraft, or variety of squadrons, training and test. And that's actually the airframe impediment and Blue Angels as well. So it all kind of works.
Are you going to do the short nose and the long nose F11F?
No.
Just the long nose?
We toyed with doing the short nose, but the problem is no one's got decent drawings of it and we couldn't scan it. So we couldn't work out where the transition starts between the two noses. And without that, we've spoken to lots of people and we can't find that one. So we thought the short nose really doesn't have much of it's actually nicer looking, but it had very little, if any, service use.
Okay. No, thanks for that. It's interesting. So would you leave room then for aftermarket decal manufacturers then to cover other options for the things that you don't cover? I mean, I know the scimitar, you're going to include just about everything, but there will be some other Hornet squadrons. Presumably there'll be some other Sea Fury users. You doing a two-seat Sea Fury? He asked.
No, so we thought of doing it. Unfortunately, there's not one left in the UK.
Right.
So we've got some of the factory drawings, but we don't have all of them. So we thought that the accuracy bit is something I prefer not to put something out than to put something out that's inaccurate. So we felt it's probably better to speak to a partner, give them all our research material, our kits, cab, things like that, and see if they'd be interested. So Allied Aircraft has done fantastic conversion.
Of course, yeah.
That's going to be released about the same time as the Sea Fury is. And it's great looking. It really is. So I like the two-seater. I think it's really quite interesting. And Ali's all over it with this wider tailplane and its campers and windscreens and everything like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that myself.
It does make a lot of sense to do that because I guess, and no disrespect to the two-seat Sea Fury, it probably wouldn't sell as many as the single seats. So Ali can probably get the economies of scale right with that one, I think.
Yeah. And from our perspective, if you want to do a two-seater one, you still got to buy a kit anyway.
Yeah. Well, win-win.
Yeah, it really is win-win. And we've done the same with the engine set as well and the spinner. And we've had a very talented designer, Chris Sargent, who's put that together and runs a company called Skunkworks, WRX. And he's done a lovely job on the engine. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, he's a brilliant modeler.
Is it a full engine?
Yes. It's not designed to be exposed on its own, but it's the whole engine. So it's the whole ring. And it's not like some of the sets that basically it's like a panel that looks like the outer edge of the cylinder.
Yeah. It just gives you the impression of cylinders, doesn't it, kind of thing?
Yeah, this is the full engine. Or the full engine that you can still see, you get the relief going all the way down to the crankcase. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. And there's a set of wheels coming out as well. I mean, it's very close. We were notified the tooling arrived in Felixstowe on Monday. It's getting very close. Can't wait to see it finally in the flesh in a couple of weeks' time when it's down at New Haven.
And so one last Sea Fury question while we're on Sea Furies then. So does the full engine have parts at the back of it so that when you've got the extra cooling flaps, which were quite often open?
Yeah.
Do you see anything in there?
No, we thought about that. Because the thing is, you need the space framing of the engine supports as well.
Right.
And it would be really quite involved to get them in there in a way that where you could do that. But it's hopefully someone might think that's a great idea. I'm going to go and do that. You could do it in 3D printing actually. But yeah, we toyed with that and we thought you can see it, but it's one of these ones where if you actually see a photograph, there's not anything obviously immediately behind the opening. So yeah, we toyed with it.
I added them on the Airfix kit, and I think what I did is created some little shallow boxes to go inside and put some lengths of plastic rod to look like some sort of structure and painted it a kind of buff colour and went, that'll do. Yeah. And you can see like literally nothing, but classic modeler.
Yeah, it works. It's a great feature. It has to be said.
Thank you for that. Thanks.
Will, I had a question about what gives you the most anxiety when you're launching a new kit. Is it the accuracy of your research? Is it the investment you put into the tooling? Is it how it's perceived by the market? Or is it something completely else entirely?
I think you've got all my nightmares in one go. They kind of go on and repeating, it kind of like in a loop.
I tend to have that effect on people.
So I don't know. I mean, where do it start? So they had the test shots of the Sea Fury in beginning of April last year, and we had them built up. And then I got a Facebook message, and he said, "You do realise I really feel guilty about bringing this up, but when the wings are folded on the Sea Fury, both the ailerons cant out the same way by 6 degrees." And we looked at, and I thought, really? I never noticed that. Looked at the scan, and it's on all the pictures. It's like, how on earth did we miss that? Because the wings were like literally the ailerons you'd never really normally see deflected on an aircraft. So they were them all in there. So it's like, oh no, what are we going to have to do? So in the end, when you look at the Sea Fury kit, we sacrificed £500 bombs, redid that particular part of the sprue, and put the ailerons as separate parts in, so that you could get the 6 degree count on it. And that, needless to say, wasn't cheap. So that's probably the worst thing that can happen, is when you've spent a lot of money on something and someone says, actually, that's just not right. And ultimately, you have to live by your principles. Accuracy is a priority. And it also looks really cool. When you actually look at it, it's like, oh, wow, I've never noticed that before. But actually, it just looks really neat having both ailerons kind of kinked out a little bit. So Nick, that's what you get in the kit.
I bet you look at it every time now you see one, don't you?
Tell me about it. But yeah, I'm curious to know why. I mean, it's something to do with locking the ailerons when the wing folds work. But yeah, who would have thought?
It's a similar story with the Mark Spitfire, isn't it? When it has the landing gear deployed. I think on the 109s as well. I'm not an aviation guy, as you know, but the part that juts out of the wing that most kits don't replicate, we talked about it in an early episode. Yeah, Boulders knows what I'm talking about. There's a part that extends in the wing to indicate to the pilot that the landing gear is deployed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, little red pins.
Pins and a flap.
If you look at the Sea Fury kit, there's one in there on each wing to tell the pilot when the wing locks are in place. It's the exact same little pin that sticks up. That's in the kit.
Attention to detail there, Will. Well done.
I have to say, the designer who sadly was killed earlier in the year out on the front line in Ukraine as a drone pilot, he's done a fantastic job, this kit. He captured it. He really, really nailed it in terms of the detail. And when you see the kit, the wing fold, then the undercarriage bay, it's really, I think we've probably taken as far as you can in injection molded plastic.
How are the canopies looking? Have you got the seam along the top?
It's got the seam along the top because it's slide molded. Because it's got that undercut and it goes in like that, you have to have a slide mold to basically break the mold apart to get the sprue out. That's why you've got that seam line, but it's not difficult to get rid of. But it was more important to capture this. If you don't capture the shape, it doesn't really matter if there's a seam line there or not, quite frankly. We're very keen to do that. In fact, the Scimitar needs a slide mold on the canopy. The F11F needs a slide mold on the canopy. The Spitfire the high back needs a slide mold on the canopy. The F105 needs a slide mold on the canopy. So in fact, everything we've done almost needs a slide mold on the canopy, except for the Hornet.
It's quite surprising sometimes when you see the aircraft in reality and you're used to being a modeller and you've modelled it and you put them together and you look at the canopy, you think, oh, that looks way different from what I'm used to seeing. Simply because of that. They're just nothing like that shape when it comes down. It's quite surprising. Where's it actually being moulded? Is it the usual kind of India?
No, it's been moulded by Plastic in New Haven. So up to now, they've done all the 24 scale Spitfire, Mark 8s and Mark 9s, and it's being moulded there. So Mark, who runs it, he's got one of the best model shops in the country at Model Works, if not the best. Absolutely fantastic range of stuff and, super friendly staff. And he's a very good model of himself, brilliant model of himself, actually, and generally cars. And we've worked with him for getting on for 2.5 years now to get this to market. And we're all super excited about getting it there, but also about moulding it in the UK as well.
Yeah, brilliant news.
There are a variety of reasons for it in terms of if you're thinking your tooling is your main investment, you want that where it's under, common law. No one's going to borrow the tools. They're not going to get lost along the way. You can operate on a more just-in-time basis. So you can run smaller tech. Financially, you're not having big inventory. You're having to sell, which again, all of this helps bring the price down. And the aim is if we can bring the price down, then we can sell more units.
I've got a question for you, Will. If you could fast forward 5 years, what would success look like for DBMK? And not just commercially.
That's a really good one. I mean, what would J-Class Destroyer? No.
Spikebull, Seafang, either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got over 100 scans. It's like what we'd like to be doing is chewing our way through all our favorite subjects and doing them properly with up-to-date tooling, state of the art, not bleeding edge in terms, coming up with reasonable kits, but really going through all those subjects that we've pined for years, and just basically 4 subjects a year, but in multiple scales. So we'll do the Symmetra in 72nd scale and 48th, the F11F 72nd scale and 48th. Other kits will be doing 32nd scale, 48th and 72nd scale all at the same time.
So would you be upscaling and downscaling your drawings to suit, or would you have to do a new design for each scale?
There are 2 schools of thought on this. So one is that it's quite easy to downscale, and it's because we're doing a lot of the detail parts now in 3D printing. It makes it easier because you can kind of have like a parallel design process where you're bringing the plastic parts down and you're limited by skin thickness of around about 1 millimeter is what you're looking for. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Bringing those down and making sure that the things scale appropriately. But on the 3D printing, in many ways is kind of like the limitation. You can make that stuff finer, so therefore you're less likely to have problems scaling up and scaling down because you can go down to a higher degree of resolution. But yeah, we're going to see which way works best for us and which way works best for our designers as well.
No, thanks for that. No, it sounds great, and I look forward to the next pour.
Yeah, I can tell you, as with all these things, we've got the Symmetra, the Sea Fury and the Hornet are basically done, about to go into production. We've got 3 or maybe 4 other CAD models that are now going to be about ready at exactly the same time, which is a little bit frustrating because for one reason or another, they've all kind of like compressed, even though they were started sometimes years apart, but they've all compressed to be ready at more or less the same time. So we're going to be pushing them through as soon as we get the funds from the selling Sea Fury, then it will push through and we'll be able to do other subjects.
So in terms of the sales, Will, are you looking at limiting the number of kits to a certain figure?
So the idea, we're going to adopt we want to sell as much through our website as possible, because the more margin we get, the quicker we can turn it around and invest in more kits, to be honest with you. So that's the first thing is we've set up, we had a new website created for us. It went live for pre-orders at the beginning of February. And today, people have been very good in ordering, and please keep ordering. It really helps us out if you come direct to us. So that's that. Our approach is going to be more like classic airframes. If you remember back sort of 20 years ago, if you wanted to buy, they would produce a certain number of kits and you never really knew how many there were. But if you didn't buy them when they were there, then you didn't buy them because they weren't available. And so the Sea Fury, we will produce as many are bought in a reasonable time, but in reasonably small batches. And then when it's over, then you won't see it for 3-5 years, whenever, and then it'll come back again. But but the idea is that we want to operate without any inventory to make efficient use of working capital. So that's one of the reasons why we're molding in the UK. So we're not tied to big batch production. We can meet the demand, and then when the demand goes, then we'll rest the tooling until I think it will be worth running another lot off. But that will be years. It's not going to be, we'll wait 6 months, because at the end of the day, it's really fun designing a kit and being in the process. And it's like, that's what I want to do. So it's like, once the Sea Fury is done, it's like, that's great. That's kind of moved into a different phase. I'm more interested in designing the Spitfire or the Seafire 47 or something like that, or the Scimitar. And there are so many subjects we want to do.
Blimey. It sounds as though you're going to give up the day job at some point.
I was going to say, is there ever going to be a time, it's either one or the other. You're going to have to take a decision which way you're going to go with it.
I mean, I'm 57. I intend to retire at 60. I'm a whippersnapper. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is a very, I like my day job. I really do. But it's like at some point, this will retire, and this is the retirement plan, basically. And it's just keeps me interested. It's doing something I realize I absolutely love. I've been doing this since I was 7 years old. And in many ways, I wish I'd done this much sooner. Although, to be honest with you, the confluence of kind of LiDAR scanning, 3D printing means that you can really do stuff now that you just couldn't do 10 or 15 years ago to anything like the same level of accuracy or just finesse, really.
Yeah, I think certainly with the technology these days, modeling has gone into a completely exponential level now, because you can design anything you want nowadays, and get it printed.
Yeah.
That was space stuff back in when I was a youngster.
Why do you think the likes of Airfix keep releasing these classics and Revel the classics? It's just to keep people like me and you that are old dodderers happy. It takes us back a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, and it gives you that warm fuzzy feeling before the lights go out. Yeah.
What's your genre? It sounds like you're a bit of everything.
And if I look at the display cabinet, it's pretty much American and British aircraft, a few tanks. I used to be a tank commander back in the day, and a few tanks. And yeah, I guess that's it. But more or less anything. I've seen a really good model that's about to be released of a traction engine in 1/16 scale. It's like, yeah, it's great. It's 3D printed. I really like the look at that. So as coming, I'm not sure I probably shouldn't say how much, but yeah, people really like that. Beautiful model. And you look at it and go, yeah, that's fantastic. Couldn't do that. Wouldn't have guessed that.
With a little 3D Fred Dibner with it.
Yeah, basically, yes, exactly that. Literally leaning on it, really one arm on the wheel. It was this,
pint in one hand, fag at me, eyes watering with the smoke.
Yeah, and a flat cap. So it was absolutely perfect. So no, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I tell you what, one subject that is eluded me as well is I like my trains as well. And I always remember as a child being really upset because I went to a shop in Pitsanger Lane in Ealing. And there was very much from Big Six vividly, but I can remember this being vividly. And there was a model of a bridge and it had a train going over it. And I was devastated to get home, open the box and realize there was just the bridge, no locomotive. And it's like, why are there no locomotive kits? If I want to build a 1/32 scale or a gauge 140 3.5 class 47 Mallard Bully Pacific, I can't do it. So wouldn't that be great? That'd be a really interesting thing to do.
Blimey, you're covering all the genres.
You can get really good cars. There's no point. I wouldn't dabble in that. But yeah, there's loads of stuff that just hasn't been done. I think people go, yeah. Again, the key thing is, what's your break-even sales point? If you can bring that down, then all of a sudden, off you go. You can do all kinds of stuff.
Oh, you've got me thinking now.
What tank did you drive?
Chieftain Mark 11 is what I trained on, which rather betrays my age, and Challenger 1 Mark 3.
Will, Brownie's asked me to wrap up, I think, because he's realised a Lancashire outro is always going to be a Wiltshire one. But just before we do, if people want to find out more about DBMK, what's the best links to do it? What's your social media handles?
So we're DBMK Model Kits on Facebook. We use that as our primary kind of like information channel to get news out. So yeah, follow us there, and also or on our website www.dbmk.co.uk.
Fantastic. But just to put my two-piece in before all that, obviously you've spoken about the J-Class, and I would really encourage you to do that. I think that's fantastic. I love the HMS Kelly, HMS Kipling, so that would be fantastic to see that in 72nd. But just making it real for a moment, we've spoken a lot about the Sea Fury and about its designer. And I know that, yes, we're an apolitical podcast, but we're not an amoral one. And you've spoken about Kostya, the designer, unfortunately losing his life in Ukraine. And I just wanted to say, I think I speak on behalf of all of us. We were all shocked when we found out what happened. We were all appalled, disgusted. But I think that the thing that came out most is that we all want that Sea Fury to do very, very well.
Absolutely. Hear, hear.
Yeah, hear, absolutely.
It absolutely deserves to as a legacy to Kostya. So yeah, I really hope you can't produce enough of those kits that they just fly out of the warehouses. But thank you for your time.
No, not at all.
The discussion we've had, no one can be labouring under any misapprehension that DBMK skimps on the research and the level of retail that's gone into the design of your kits. And honestly, it's always fascinating to hear the story behind the kits that we eventually see on our benches, because conversations like this really remind us how much passion, research and risk sits behind each new release. DBMK are clearly doing something special by combining deep historical research with modern design thinking. And it's exciting to see manufacturers willing to take on subjects that expand what's possible in the hobby, such as a J-Class destroyer. We'll include links in the show notes so you can explore DBMK's work, follow upcoming releases, and keep an eye on what's coming next. Right then, Benchmates, with that, we will take a short commercial break and we'll be back in a few ticks.
Do you want cutting-edge detail for your kits? Then take a look at Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, run by USAF veteran Mike Reeves. With real-world aircraft experience as a crew chief, Mike knows exactly where accuracy counts. And today, he's bringing that knowledge to life with precision 3D printed parts. From seamless intakes and nozzles to dropped flaps, pods, pylons, and cockpit upgrades, Phase Hanger's prints capture the crisp edges and fine detail that limitations in injection molding just can't reproduce. From 1/72nd to 1/32nd scale, you'll find add-ons from Cold War classics to the latest frontline jets with frequent new additions to the product range. Every piece is designed by modelers, for modelers, and faithfully reproduced on state-of-the-art printers and shipped worldwide, and are ready to drop straight into your next build. With additions to the product line landing all the time, there's always something fresh to elevate your next build. Explore the full range at phasehangerresin.com and follow Phase Hanger on Facebook and Instagram for regular updates and inspiration. Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, authentic detail designed with a veteran's eye and available to modelers everywhere. Phase Hanger is a proud sponsor of the Beyond the Box Art podcast.
Right then, Benchmates, that's it for this episode. So, from Dan.
Dear Benchmates, just remember, they're all practice for the next one.
Boulders.
See you all. Keep on building.
Mark.
Bye, y'all. Be good.
James.
Bye, everyone. See you in the next episode.
Wongy.
See you guys. 60 pounds or less, remember.
And John.
Thanks for having me again, and see you next time.
And for myself, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time. Bye-bye.